Davin was born more disadvantaged than any other child with only one arm, but the most terrible misfortune he had to endure his entire life was being born on the same day and month as Kajin, the child blessed by the sword god with both looks and talent. Davin's mother always lamented how much better it would be if he were Kajin. Every night his mother would whisper in her son's ear, "Why don't you just die, son?" These bitter words were completely different from what his father had said when he was still in the womb. They had once cherished Davin, hoping he would surpass Kajin, but instead Davin became a disgrace that crushed their every hope, and as fate would cruelly have it. When Davin was just learning to stand and walk, Kajin already knew how to hold a sword, and when he learned to hold a sword, Kajin was already proficiently using mana and training at the House of Samuel. The comparisons continued, making Kajin someone Davin both envied and admired. At the age of 7, he was sent to be Kajin's retainer, on the surface serving as his right-hand man, standing by his side as his cousin, but in reality, Davin's parents had sold him for 300,000 luden. Under a snowstorm, Davin was screaming in pain, his face bloodied and in front of him. That Kajin fellow was playing around as if it were a game. "Ah ha ha ha, this is the first time I've ever seen someone as pathetic as you." From the very beginning, Kajin disliked Davin, so he was always used as a punching bag for his anger. Davin always had to hold back his tears no matter how much pain he felt. The adults around them would just turn a blind eye. Davin's uncle was an exceptionally brilliant man, but he had left the family long ago and had never returned, so there was no one there to control Kajin, causing him to grow up more like a madman than an admirable person. His innate talent and the sword god's blessing became a poison that corrupted him. He saw everyone as trash, and one by one they had to go up and duel him. Even if they admitted defeat, he showed no mercy. The next person would be Davin. He was very jealous of Kajin's strength and talent, and just like that, he didn't hesitate to charge forward, wanting to become stronger. Kajin glared and bluntly sent Davin flying. "Don't you look at me with those damn eyes. I despise you. A pathetic one-armed loser like you dares to look at me like that. Do you think you can beat me just by trying hard? If you've got the guts, then try it. Trash like you can try for a lifetime and still never be worth a hair on my leg." Davin lay still as he was kicked repeatedly in the face, the young man still gritting his teeth to endure it. He wanted to defeat him, even knowing that dream was unattainable through effort alone. The more Kajin neglected his training for women, wine, and even drugs. But Davin still couldn't defeat him. However, things couldn't go on like this forever. Right on this fighting stage, the two continued to face off. Davin used all the strength he had, including the skills he had honed for so long. After a finishing blow, a thunderous explosion echoed. Everyone was frozen by the sight before them. Davin had defeated Kaji, the Sword Storm. To date, Davin had lost a total of 21 matches, but at 29 years old, he was able to defeat him in their past makeshift duels. He always lost to him, and other people constantly told him to give up. They mocked Davin, calling him a talentless hack who was just wasting his time, but in the end, he won. In the stands, the chant Davin roared through the sky as he looked straight into Kajin's eyes. "How long do you think you can brag, Kajin?" Still unconvinced, snarled me, "lose to a failure like you." Davin replied bluntly, "If I were you, I definitely wouldn't be like you. I wouldn't waste my time on women, drinking, and addiction. I would live a more meaningful life. I would leave my footprints on the highest peak." In the end, Davin had won. But as he limped away, that Kajin fellow couldn't control himself. From behind, he ran his sword straight through Davin. This sneak attack made Davin realize that even to the very end, Kajin was just a coward. As blood poured from his mouth in immense pain, Davin had a fleeting thought. "It hurts so much. I finally defeated Kajin, and yet..." The sunlight blade, the sacred sword passed down only to the descendants of the Samyeon clan, a sword containing the Samyeon clan's demon-resisting mana. Even if Saintess Ji-Allah appeared, I wouldn't have a chance of survival. As soon as he opened his eyes, Davin saw his body was tightly bound. Is this hell? A tall, muscular man wearing a mask, covered in chains, seemed confused. Hell, you're a lucky one. Who would have thought the miraculous Saintess Ji-Allah would be present at the arena? The Saintess herself was the one who healed Davin's mortal body with a miracle befitting her name. That was the only reason Davin was able to survive. His entire body had been destroyed, and now he could only breathe. The man with blazing red eyes asked again, "Did you sign a pact with a demon?" Seeing Davin's surprise, the man narrowed his eyes. Why so surprised? "Only by making a pact with a demon could a failure like you ever defeat Kajin. Your parents have already admitted it." What's the point in denying it? Davin recalled his father's and mother's expressions filled with resentment. "Oh, so that's how it is, according to that guy. Blood and sacrificial offerings were found at your house. He asserted that Davin was a demon who had taken the lives of 300 innocent children in exchange for power. Once again, this formidable man pointed directly at Davin. Young Master Kajin eliminated you to protect the honor of the House of Samuel. Executing his own cousin and childhood friend with his own hands, the young master must have been deeply saddened. Davin couldn't be bothered to argue back, only finding the whole situation ridiculous. Ha 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 ha, I understand now. I defeated Kajin, but I did nothing to the family, yet they chose him over me. And so Davin was branded as having sullied the family's honor, so his mana would be sealed and he would be sentenced to life in prison forever. Davin's tendons in his arms and legs were all cut, his mana was sealed by multiple layers of chains, and he was thrown into a dungeon, his eyes blindfolded, unable to see the light. That scum Kajin came before him and taunted, "This look suits you, Davin. I have become the Sword King. People out there praise me as a generational sword master. It's all thanks to you. Thanks, you piece of scum." After the day Kajin came to humiliate him, the amount of food brought to him grew less and less. Davin now looked no different from a starving, withered corpse. Thirsty, and his internal organs also seemed to be failing. He began to cough up blood. "If I have to give up this life, I still want to hold my head high. I should have died back at the arena. It's so cold. If I hadn't been missing an arm, would my life have been different?" Davin collapsed and wondered if I had been an acknowledged son. If I had been the child blessed by the sword god, would my life have been different? The moment a teardrop fell was also the moment Davin passed away forever. But in the darkness, a ray of light shone. As soon as the young man opened his eyes, he saw someone smacking him right on the arm. "An elder of the family is speaking to you. Are you even listening, Vincent?" The pain coming from his right arm couldn't feel more real. Could this be a dream? If so, why does it feel so real? The man standing before him was an elder from one of the family's side branches. He jumped in surprise. Wait a minute. Did he just call me Vincent? The seventh son of Aiden Kaga. What are these memories running through my head? However, this dream wasn't entirely a nightmare. The air is so fresh. There's none of the disgusting, musky smell from the underground prison. A dream where I have a right arm. Is this a gift bestowed upon me right before I croaked in the guise of Vincent? He just stood there dumbfounded as the other man kept talking, which made him furious. "How much longer are you going to ignore me?" Vincent continued to feel a strong surge of mana causing him pain. The young man immediately reacted. The way to block this attack is to physically distance oneself from the opponent. Although he performed it as usual, it generated a terrifying amount of force, enough to push the other person far away. Vincent was startled. Before, as Davin, this attack wasn't nearly this strong. The young man froze, only managing to say sorry and offer to help him up. This elder slapped his hand away. "You impudent brat, just because you belong to the main branch, my son will crush you without mercy. This will be the first time a side branch overthrows the main branch." Hearing this, Vincent could also determine. This man was exactly like his father in his previous life. He had always wanted to defeat his eldest uncle, the moment he realized he couldn't achieve that dream. He started projecting it onto him, and as a result, Davin at that time became a disobedient son. The elder spat bitterly as he left. "I will not forget your arrogance and rudeness from today. Just you wait for the day of the True Sword Convention." Vincent threw himself onto the soft chair, once again breathing in the air. This isn't a dream, is it? I should have woken up by now. Now other memories were starting to return. His mother died after giving birth to him. His father never cared for him, not even for a minute. All the other children treated him like an outlet for their anger. Among the 8 children of the prestigious Adenka sword-fighting family, he, Vincent, was the 7th son. He was so cowardly that he would just curl up and stay quietly in his room, crying after being tormented by the youngest son of the family, an ugly duckling abandoned by the others in the main branch of the Adenka family, a target for the side branches who wished to surpass the main branch Davin, a one-armed man of the Samian family. He had become the useless Vincent of the Adenka family. Although he didn't understand a damn thing, the young man could tell he had been reincarnated. There was a diary on the bookshelf. Vincent decided to open it and take a look. The diary was filled with Vincent's criticisms of himself. It seemed his self-esteem had hit rock bottom, and he had given up on everything. The current Vincent thought, "It seems God has answered our prayers. Kiddo, until the very last moments I still got to live, and you, Vincent, always wanted to give up on life. I wonder if that's really how it all happened. The one who wanted to die disappeared, while the one who wanted to live was reborn." Suddenly, a voice echoed in the room. "Are you really going to believe something so absurd?" Vincent jumped in fright. "Who are you?" the voice replied. Are you naive or just plain stupid? Vincent broke out in a cold sweat, wary that a demon was trying to trick him because his reincarnation was something that shouldn't have happened. The voice spoke up again. You're overthinking things. I am the original owner of that body. My name was originally Vincent, but since I have given my body to you, I no longer have a name. From now on, please call me Julian. Vincent was bewildered. Aren't you already dead? How can this be happening? Julian replied with a bright smile. A revelation. Vincent was still confused. A revelation is that something a god grants to humans. I've heard that those who are blessed from birth can sometimes hear revelations. Are you perhaps saying you are a god? Julian replied enthusiastically. That's right. However, I am only a minor god. I originally intended to summon a spirit god, but you took that place instead. If I want to become a true god instead of a minor god, I will need to achieve countless accomplishments. We call this a trial. If I complete my trial, I will be able to become a true god. Vincent hesitated and looked annoyed. I understand your situation, but I have no interest in your accomplishments. If everything is as you say, then I have been reincarnated. I will be very busy living my own life, so I won't have time to listen to some ghosts' wishes. Julian maintained his cheerful expression. That's right. I gave up my life and you wished for it, and as a result, this happened. However, my spiritual power is extremely weak. If my spiritual power disappears completely, then that body will also fade away. You're okay with that, aren't you? Vincent sighed and rolled his eyes. What are you threatening me? This body is too healthy to kick the bucket so soon. Just as he finished speaking, Julian did something, causing Vincent's entire body to feel instantly exhausted. He collapsed onto the floor. Cease so naive. From now on, I will show you my true memories. Immediately, the space around Vincent transformed. Numerous butterflies suddenly turned into a bolt of lightning that struck him right in the chest. They were all terrible memories. But alongside them were unimaginable thoughts. These memories showed that the character was not desperate at all, and was only pretending to be a coward. He was laying the groundwork for revenge. Waking up in a cold sweat, Vincent was still astounded. Are these really the thoughts of a 13-year-old child? What kind of world have I been reincarnated into? Julian then revealed his true face. How about it? My acting was perfect, wasn't it? I had to escape the family's surveillance. The subjects I wanted to learn were considered to be at the apostle level. Now, do you want to listen to me? This won't be a disadvantage for you either. Vincent then decided to sit down obediently. Julian got straight to the point. All right then. So do you know of the great demon Davin and the valiant King Kaji? Upon hearing this, Vincent was so startled he stood up, his face showing great indignation. You just said the great demon Davin and the valiant King Kaji. He tried his best to calm down and listen to Julian. This happened 500 years ago. The one-armed swordsman Davin escaped from Samuel prison for making a deal with a demon. He destroyed thousands of lives to become stronger. It's rumored that he mercilessly killed 10,000 people. That's why he was recorded in history under the name of a demon. Vincent was once again flabbergasted. The great demon Davin from 500 years ago. Does that mean I've come to the future 500 years later? It makes no sense at all, but how many people could have such a coincidental name? And also share the same bloodline of the Samuel family. I'm sure I kicked the bucket 500 years ago in that prison. Right. The Samuel family abandoned the one-armed man and chose the treasured sword. When the one-armed swordsman passed away in solitude, the treasured sword became the Sword King, but they distorted history and spoke of a great demon. And the valiant king like that. They made up such terrible things, those damn Samuel family bastards, Vincent thought, going mad with resentment to the point of slamming his hand on the ground. To think they would slander him to that extent. Julian, still not understanding, continued enthusiastically. The valiant King Kaji was a friend who dearly loved the great demon Davin. Isn't that so romantic? Vincent tried to restrain himself, lowered his head, and then shouted, "Shut up and stop with that disgusting nonsense." He even swept all the books off the table. Seeing this, Julian, not understanding what was happening, became flustered. "Why are you so angry?" Vincent replied bluntly. "Because history has been completely distorted." Julian wondered, "Are you from that era? You must be really old." "Don't be mad, old man." Vincent still tried to suppress his anger, grunting a yeah with utmost frustration. Julian floated in the air and said, "Anyway, history is just the story of the victors." Vincent looked up and asked, "Why does a 13-year-old talk like that?" "Well, kids these days grow up fast, not like in your time." Vincent sighed wearily. "Fine, just keep talking." Encouraged, Julian continued his story. The valiant king swallowed his tears and cooperated with the outstanding hero of that time, who was also the best friend of the Sun Sword King, to defeat the great demon Davin. Vincent himself, listening to his own story, didn't even know who the Sun Sword King was. He had never heard the name before. Julian showed surprise. Oh, you don't know who Aslan is. He is the ancestor of the Adenka family. Vincent, as if remembering something, snapped his fingers excitedly. Aslan is that clever brat, huh? Ha ha, he became the first head of the Adenka family. Remembering back when he was Davin, Aslan had come before him and showed great admiration. Hello, Lord Davin. I am Aslan. I admire you greatly. When I grow up, I want to be like you. Although Aslan was still young then, the boy was his friend and student. At that time, Davin, apart from his low self-esteem, had very little confidence, even thinking what's so good about a one-armed guy like me. Aslan still visited him in prison a few times. Aslan even showed great indignation and asserted, "You have never committed any crime. Power will never defeat the truth. I will definitely ensure that. I will definitely restore your honor no matter how long it takes." From the moment Aslan said that the boy never came again, Julian continued to explain. He was the first head of the Adenka family and left us a lifelong mission. It's related to my accomplishment, which is to surpass the Samuel family. We must fight for the truth. After hearing this, Vincent's gaze seemed to freeze. Fighting for the truth. Is that a coincidence? Aslan definitely said that he would reveal the truth, and he is the one who knows my story. It seems it's certainly not a coincidence, and even though I don't know everything, I understand this matter clearly. Aslan Farker abandoned the Farker family and created the Adenka family. He wanted to fight for the truth. Adenka is a new family created to restore Davin's honor. Aslan's family. Vincent thought that this seemed to be fate, which is why he was reborn into this family. Vincent seemed to have calmed down and listened intently. You are from the Adenka family, and my mission is to complete the tasks assigned. If I complete that mission, will you really become a god? Julian nodded. That's right. If that happens, you will truly become the master of my body. If I become a god, I can also bestow blessings upon you. This is beneficial for the two of us, isn't it? Vincent now felt very grateful. Thank you, Aslan. I will inherit the mission you left behind. I will surpass the Samuel family. I will climb over the family that betrayed me by becoming a part of this family. He immediately went outside. Julian followed and wondered, Hey, old man, where are you going? Vincent was so annoyed he didn't even want to answer. I told you to stop calling me an old man. Julian still acted playfully and innocently. Come on now. If you're from 500 years ago, you're definitely an old man. Suddenly, a shout from outside announced the start of a battle with many people wearing armor and carrying shields. Vincent wondered what kind of martial arts people of this era used. How much has martial arts advanced in 500 years? How much stronger has the Samuel family, the descendants of Kajin, become? Just thinking about it. Vincent felt quite excited, but right now his body was constantly sweating and felt very heavy. The young man then fainted without even realizing it. This trashy kid's body faints too easily. This body is so terrible that without using mana to control it, I can't even live normally. While sitting in the training room, Vincent suddenly felt a strange flow of mana. He was startled and repeatedly called for Julian. Julian, where have you gone? Still in his pajamas, Julian appeared yawning widely. Why are you suddenly looking for me? Vincent shook Julian repeatedly. Why don't you learn swordsmanship? Julian was a bit startled, but still replied, because I have an illness, I can't learn it. Don't ask why, because I was born this way. Vincent became agitated. You have holy bones. Why on earth aren't you learning swordsmanship? Julian snatched back his pillowcase. Let me go. What are holy bones and why are you acting so fiercely? Vincent shouted in explanation. You can store mana everywhere in your body. More precisely, you can store mana in your bones. Seeing Julian's face, it was clear he still didn't get it at all. Vincent looked exhausted, not knowing how to explain. Listen carefully. A martial artist needs to use mana to gain superhuman strength beyond ordinary people. That mana is usually stored in a person's heart, but you have holy bones. This means that besides your heart, you can also store it in your bones, which means you have an endless source of mana. Julian's eyes were still wide with an incredibly naive look. Oh, that's amazing. I have something like that. Vincent tried to explain further. It seems you still don't know how important it is. Kajin, the one you call the Hero King, he also had holy bones. Julian pointed and replied that he couldn't link the symbol with his heart. Vincent was still clueless, not understanding what a symbol was. He even made a confused expression that left Julian helpless. What's with that expression? This guy. Since when did I have to explain these things? A symbol is a type of image that represents mana. Vincent scowled and freaked out. What? Isn't mana supposed to be stored in the heart? Then what about the meditation method? It seemed these two were not on the same wavelength, making the conversation a bit frustrating. Now it was Julian's turn to be confused. What meditation method are you talking about? Next up was Vincent explaining, asking, What do you mean, what meditation method? He was the first person capable of storing a massive amount of mana in the heart. Julian's eyes widened. In our era, we store mana in symbols and call them stars. And the number of stars represents a person's strength. For a very long time now, people no longer use their bodies to store mana. In other words, no one does it anymore. Vincent sighed helplessly, unable to believe this harsh reality. He walked to the window and looked up at the sparkling sky. The young man realized that each person in the family had to converge at least one symbol connect to it and feel mana. That is the first condition to achieve 1 star. It seems the method of converging mana in a symbol is to avoid the dangers that occur when mana is stored in the heart. He drew his sword and stared at it. In the past, many people faced danger using that method, because if it exploded, it would surely be horrifying. But Vincent was doing something different that greatly surprised Julian. Wait, stop, are you converging mana in your heart? Vincent asserted that his heart was very healthy. If you want to become stronger, you must accept the challenge. Previously, as the one-armed Davin, he had also used this method to become stronger. Julian stood behind him in alarm. Wait, why are you letting the mana scatter everywhere like that? The command is wrong. Don't you know the circuit formula? Vincent was going crazy from all this noise. He also wondered what other formula there could be. Julian clenched his fists and replied, "Of course there's a more efficient formula for using mana." Vincent sighed as he was just trying to recall how he used to do it. The magical energy will convert and erupt in just a few seconds. Julian was downcast. So I'm going to die. Vincent replied optimistically. In other words, let's just say you have half a life left. Is that okay? After saying that, Vincent collapsed onto the bed while Julian freaked out in frustration. That body isn't yours, so you can just do whatever you want with it, huh? Please show some respect for it, will you? All right, I'll respect it, okay. But why are you doing this to this body? After hearing the question, Julian looked confused again. Vincent continued. This body's appearance isn't bad and the heart is very healthy. You just need to live peacefully. As a member of the Samuel family, how could you not succeed? The symbol is important for converging mana, but the body itself also needs mana. Because of the difficulty, no one has seen one in 35 years. At this rate, the body of Vincent Adenka will die before reaching adulthood. The sky was ink black with many stars twinkling. Meanwhile, Vincent was still concentrating with all his might to meditate. Meditation can help us avoid many things, but everything has its limits. Perhaps there are only 15 left. Enough time to become the Sword King and for the one-armed Davin to reappear. It was also the time Davin was imprisoned and slowly starved to death. Just thinking back on it brought tears to Vincent's eyes. It truly was a pitiful life. Those years were so terrifying he didn't even want to think about the Davin back then who had to endure for so long. Just then, someone started banging on the door. "What are you doing in there, young master? Answer me." Vincent's face was blank, not knowing who it was. The person couldn't wait any longer and directly opened the door, barging in, upon seeing the messy scene before him. This person looked very shocked. "Oh my God, what happened in here?" "Young master, what kind of mess have you made in the room?" Vincent slowly stood up and asked a completely clueless question. "Are you my servant?" "What a strange question." "Of course I am. Who else could I be, young master?" Following the stream of memories, Vincent confirmed this person's name was Wilson, the man Julian would personally eliminate in 3 years. Vincent decided not to overthink it. If he's a servant, he would order him around. "You came at the right time. Bring me a clean set of clothes. After that, you'd better clean this room." Wilson was stunned and bewildered. "What's going on? Why does he seem so much stronger today? Is this still the weak Vincent I know?" Wilson scowled in annoyance and asked, "Young master, what did you do to mess up the whole room like this? Don't tell me you were doing some crazy experiment." Vincent calmly replied, "No, I wasn't." Before he could finish, Wilson's face twisted as he flared up, saying Vincent was no different from an animal. "How dare you say no? What's the use of hiding in your room all day, reading until you go mad? You've definitely been learning black magic, haven't you? I'm going to report this to my superiors." Vincent decided to put this servant in his place. How amusing. It's rare to see a servant speak that way to his master. You constantly want to do things that your master doesn't want. This means you never intended to listen from the start, did you? These suddenly firm words made Wilson freeze and stutter. Vincent continued to press him. "It's true I make you work more than usual, but don't you see that as your duty?" Wilson maintained his defiant attitude and yelled in Vincent's face, "I already said I won't do things I don't want to do. What do you think I'm here for?" Vincent stared him straight in the eyes. "That's right. You are just a servant. Am I wrong?" After speaking, he immediately snatched the clothes from Wilson's hand. "If you don't want to do it, then don't. I'll get my own things." Wilson broke out in a sweat, alarmed. "Where are you going, young master?" Vincent replied nonchalantly, "I'm just going to see Lord Chamberlain to find some clothes." I'll tell him I had to come myself because Wilson refused to do his job. With a reluctant attitude, Wilson had no choice but to obey. I'll do it right away. Who said I wouldn't? I'll clean the room too, so just leave it to me. The previous Vincent was truly a coward for even a servant to be so arrogant. They must be doing this for a reason. Julian, standing beside him, nodded. Right, I think so too. Vincent felt they were just a bunch of people who didn't know their place and liked to provoke others. I must let them see who the seventh master of the Adenka family is. What kind of person he is. Julian informed Vincent that Wilson is a member of the cult that murdered hundreds of people. What should we do? After hearing this, Vincent found it even more interesting. Is that so? Listen carefully, a murderer always carries a different kind of energy. But I don't sense that energy from him. He's just a good-for-nothing. His eyes are still so naive, I can tell he's just a coward. Julian was surprised to hear that. Weren't you that kind of person once as well? Otherwise, how would you understand it so well? Vincent glanced back with a sharp gaze because I have already lived a life before. Julian suddenly felt a chill down his spine, not understanding what was wrong with Vincent. Julian began to feel afraid. Could it be that I've summoned something even more terrifying than the Demon King? With an expression of utmost annoyance, Wilson carried in the freshly laundered clothes. Sir, I have finished washing your clothes from yesterday. Do you like how I cleaned the room? Vincent put on a satisfied expression. The room is indeed clean as heck. The young man sat comfortably with his legs crossed on the chair. Thank you for your hard work, kid. Wilson still grumbled under his breath. Please don't turn the room into a battlefield again next time. Vincent replied earnestly, all right. I won't do it again. But inwardly, he was feeling satisfied seeing that Wilson had become more obedient. What can the useless Vincent possibly do acting all high and mighty like that? He then continued to order Wilson around. Hey, Wilson, bring me a wooden sword about 1 meter long like this. It would be great if it weighed around 500 grams and it should be made of ebony. There must be a ton of them in the warehouse, right? That Wilson old habits die hard. What if I refuse? Vincent continued the process of teaching him a lesson. The young man stood the hell up. If you won't do it, then I'll go get it myself. How should I answer the gatekeeper when he asks why I have to go get it myself? Oh, that's right. Wilson, did you know that the guards at the warehouse are masters? And they are very loyal to the descendants of this family. Wilson was scared witless this time. Wait, why are you acting like this again, sir? Seriously, just wait a moment. The moment Wilson's hand touched Vincent, he instinctively threw him down hard. Oops, my apologies. I have quite a few bad memories of being attacked from behind. Wilson looked confused as he had never heard of that happening before. Vincent turned his head and emphasized then all the better. From now on, engrave that in your mind. In reality, the young man was also enduring the fact that throwing Wilson had taken a lot of his strength and made his whole body ache. It really hurt. He could smell the anger right behind him. Vincent glanced over and continued to taunt him. What is it? You want to say something to me? Too intimidated, Wilson suddenly became as obedient as a puppy. No, sir. What did you say, sir? 1 meter of ebony, was it? Vincent didn't stop there. Hello? Didn't you say you didn't want to go get it? Wilson flinched like a madman and immediately headed for the door. I didn't say I didn't want to do it. As a habit, he slammed the door with a bang to show his attitude, but afraid Vincent would pull something, he cracked the door open to explain. The door slammed because of the wind, sir. I didn't do it on purpose. As soon as he left, Wilson thought of a plan for revenge. I can't lose to him again. I'll show him why I am Wilson with an arrogant and contemptuous look. Wilson brought back what Vincent requested, copping a major attitude. He was pleased with his own defiant demeanor, thinking to himself, what's wrong? Feeling like crap, aren't you? You think I'll give it to you that easily? Vincent closed his book, looking at him with one eye. Wilson, you know what? Among all the people I know, there was a man with no right hand. Because he had no right hand, his life was quite difficult. In fact, he met a very terrible end. As if he had understood something. Wilson abruptly handed the sword to Vincent and bowed his head. Here is your wooden sword, sir. As he bowed, he felt resentful. Damn it, this is so humiliating. Wilson gritted his teeth. I have now finished the task you gave me. I will take my leave now. It was still the sound of a resentful door slam as Wilson left. Vincent set that aside and focused on the sword. All right now, I just need some suitable exercises. Right now, he was training with 2 wooden dummies. He knew this sacred body was very weak, but he didn't think he would be exhausted after just a few swings of a wooden sword like this. It seems there's still a long way to go. However, Vincent found this feeling to be great. It seems I was born to be a martial artist. Just then, some damn guy appeared out of nowhere because of the amount of mana. It's so weak that I didn't think anyone was using the scarecrow. In response to Vincent's question, this person introduced himself as Ravana Denka and didn't forget to add another sentence. Aren't you the useless Vincent? In a moment of silence, Julian, in another dimension, reminded Vincent. Revan Adenka is just a collateral descendant. Vincent was quite surprised to suddenly hear his voice. Julian continued. He's also one of the candidates predicted to win this year's True Sword Conference. You've met his father before, haven't you? Only then could Vincent confirm it. The man he met back then was this kid's father. Julian also didn't forget to add, be careful. He is the top prospect from the collateral line, the one with the best skills among the 13-year-olds in the Adenka clan. Revan Adenka sneered and spoke up, I guess, if I win this True Sword Conference. I'll have to fight you, so I came looking for you. Hearing the name True Sword Conference, Vincent was suddenly startled. It's a tournament with real swords gathering children from the martial artist families of the clan's branches. Adenka. Since there's no age limit, people usually participate in the True Sword Conference at the age of 14. The champion of the True Sword Conference is said to get a chance to fight the direct descendant of the Adenka clan of the same age. The direct descendant must fight the champion of the True Sword Conference. The useless Vincent was considered the weakest among the direct descendants. Just like that, Revan Adenka was acting like a madman. You're not going to run from me because you're too scared, are you, in this True Sword Conference? Things won't end with just wooden swords? Vincent replied bluntly. How can a martial artist be afraid of a sword? After hearing this, Revan Adenka burst into crazed laughter. Ha ha ha! I guess you talk a good game since you're a direct descendant, huh? Vincent crossed his arms, determined to fight back with words. You're pretty good at crowing yourself. Even provocations have their limits and ranks. The reason Vincent said this was because he was very annoyed. How dare he taunt someone who is training? He was being too rude. Even one-armed Davin had to respect both training and sparring. Even Kajin respected him. Vincent was determined to put him in his place. Slashing someone else's straw dummy, you are a disgrace to all martial artists. You should be ashamed of yourself. I guess your father, also from the collateral line, taught you to behave like that. Revan Adenka got extremely pissed off and jumped. You bastard, you dare insult my father. I decided I wouldn't let you off the hook the moment you insulted my father. Julian reminded him again that Revan Adenka was at level 2, and his attribute had reached the steel level. Vincent had to be careful because he was stronger than Vincent right now. In his heart, Vincent thought, I know I will lose if I fight him right now. But he clearly reeks of the inferiority of someone raised as a collateral descendant. He's using mana even though I can't control my own mana yet. His father doesn't even act like an adult, and his son doesn't know the etiquette of a martial artist. The mindset of martial artists now is not the same as it was 500 years ago. I must ensure he learns this from my era. Vincent pointed his sword directly at Revan and said, someone like you must be taught a lesson by the eldest in the clan. Revan Adenka was surprised that Vincent, someone he considered a coward, dared to point a sword at his face. He thought to himself, from the moment he pointed his sword at me, I knew he had no chance of winning. But why is the atmosphere so tense? Is he really going to strike me at any moment? After a few minutes of intimidation, Vincent withdrew his sword and said, what if you get scared by just a few wooden swords? I feel like I can fight you in the True Sword Conference. In the True Sword Conference, things don't just end with a few wooden swords, you understand. Revan Adenka gritted his teeth, unable to control his anger. He rushed forward immediately, deciding to deal with Vincent on the spot. Seeing this situation, Julian, frightened, quickly hid behind Vincent and said, what are you doing, Dodge? Vincent calmly replied, don't worry, Julian, he can't hurt me. At the same time, a man appeared and held Revan back, saying, young master, stop at once, you cannot fight, young master Vincent here. Revan angrily shouted, what, let go of me? Seeing that the situation had stabilized, Julian let out a sigh of relief and said, thank heavens. Vincent stood to the side looking smug. See, I told you so. The blonde-haired man continued, if you injure young Master Vincent here, he will have an excuse to avoid this match. The young master must fight him at the True Sword Conference, so please restrain yourself. Revan reluctantly agreed, then said, let's meet again at the True Sword Conference, you coward, and returned to his room. Julian complained incessantly seriously, why did you provoke Revan just now? If his guards hadn't stopped him, you could have been in trouble. Vincent replied arrogantly, all I did was teach that brat who doesn't know his place a lesson. Julian asked, puzzled, I'm going crazy, how did you end up in a situation like this? I had a plan to summon the Spirit King, you know? Vincent appeared very calm. Yeah, sorry, that's why I'm learning from you about what's happening in this era. Vincent looked at a picture of himself as a child and murmured, this is a portrait. Julian angrily snatched the picture and said, hey, focus. Don't get distracted by trivial things anymore. Have you finished studying the theory of phantom images yet? Focus on magic and the attributes of the 5 elements. Vincent asked, puzzled attributes. Julian explained that attributes are what people use to create power from blessings, a self-created blessing. Hearing this, Vincent said in alarm, "What, you can create your own blessings? That's disrespectful to the gods. You'll be punished." Julian said sulkily, "What are you talking about? You don't respect the gods either. You should be grateful, because no one has died from divine punishment yet." Vincent pressed on. "Ravan has an attribute too, right? What is the Iron Man's blessing?" Julian then explained, "The blessing of the Dwarf King includes many things. These attributes help the recipient gain more power the more special blessings they have. The more opportunities there are to open up a stronger path like the branches of a tree. The Iron Man's blessing is a mid-tier blessing. Its power is both defensive and offensive." Vincent thought for a moment, then replied, "This seems like a pretty interesting new thing." Julian continued, "That's right, you'll become much stronger." At this moment, Vincent thought to himself, just as Julian said that Straw Dummy was cut in two right at the neck, Revan showed me an incredible feat. Compared to the people of my time, is that the power of an attribute? To fight someone like that, I need to familiarize myself with those skills. Early the next morning, Vincent went to the training ground again. He diligently practiced with a wooden sword while the guards witnessed the scene. They gathered in surprise and said, "It's the young master again, huh? Is he swinging the sword with his left hand? He'll get bored of it soon enough." Everyone knows that. He starts swinging wildly after 2 or 3 strikes, then suddenly someone approached and interrupted. "Don't speak so harshly of him." Seeing Merlin, the group of men were terrified. Vice Commander Merlin. Merlin said calmly, "Is it amusing that the young master of Adenka is practicing martial arts?" Hearing this, the group of men hurriedly replied in fear, "We apologize." Then they immediately left. Merlin glanced at the training. Vincent sighed and said to himself, "That's what I wanted to say, but look at him. People always call him the disgrace of Adenka, someone who swings a sword unconsciously without any attributes or mana. He is always looked down upon by others." Julian said shyly, "They're talking about you. Shouldn't we be training in the forest?" Vincent replied, "Do you have the strength and time to go there?" Vincent recalled his past, saying, "I'm used to being looked down upon by others. Since no one expected that I, Davin, would defeat the sword dance, but I did it. I have turned defeat into victory with this body before. I need to try even harder." Suddenly, Merlin came over and handed Vincent a cup of water, saying, "Here is a mana recovery potion. It will be easier for you to train with it." Vincent took the flask and asked, "And you are?" Merlin quickly explained, "I am the vice captain of the White Sword Unit." Vincent pressed on, "Are you mocking me?" Merlin replied, "Honestly, I was, but your eyes seem to be yearning for something. Anyone who mocks a martial artist like that is the one who should be despised." As soon as he finished, Vincent said, "Merlin, I will remember that name. Forgive me, but you should be on patrol right now. You may leave now." Merlin quickly bowed and replied, "Then I shall take my leave." Seeing Vincent's determined posture, Merlin also felt it was strange. "Something has changed, young master. May good fortune be with you." Vincent trained diligently day and night from morning till evening, day after day, alone with a wooden sword. Just like that, Vincent trained until he was exhausted. Before sitting down to drink water at night, Vincent diligently wrote something down. He recalled the moment of training. Vincent told himself the right foot must maintain balance and add the rotational force of the hips. "I can feel the mana in my chest. I'm starting to feel it." Davin, the path to defeating Kajin. Vincent recalled the power he felt when fighting Kajin and thought to himself the sword path must follow the astral points. Only then can its full power be revealed immediately. He continued to practice each decisive and swift strike, following the form. Seeing the results before him, Vincent couldn't help but feel secretly delighted. Success. "I have successfully mastered the swordsmanship." In another corner, Wilson was fuming non-stop. "Damn it. How many days has it been? He's not a rooster. Why is he eating at 5 in the morning? His training session just makes more work for me." Thinking this, Wilson came up with an idea. Maybe I should insult him a little. Then he brought the food over and said, "Young master, breakfast is here." Wilson slowly lifted the lid, startling Vincent when he saw that the plate of food was partially empty. Looking up at Wilson's food-smeared mouth, Vincent said angrily, "If you're going to sneak food, at least don't be so obvious about it." Wilson pretended to be clueless and replied, "What are you talking about, sir?" Vincent continued, "If you had any conscience, you would at least wipe your mouth." "I can easily let it go this time, but I hope you don't cross the line." Wilson quickly wiped his mouth. "You know that I was once a criminal, right? I may look like this, but I've dealt with quite a few people." Hearing that, Vincent laughed out loud. So scary. Wilson hadn't finished speaking smugly when Vincent used his mana as a warning. "It's easy to control others through intimidation, but you can't scare me. That's why I'm not crushing you with force." Wilson was startled and quickly asked, "Young master, you have mana since when?" Vincent calmly replied, "The important thing is that I am using mana right." Wilson nodded, "Yes, sir." Vincent continued, "Stop posturing in front of me and stand by my side. Soon you will no longer be shamed for serving me, Vincent. When the time is right, you will have to decide between opposing me or serving me with loyalty." Wilson went outside, stood at the door looking in, and asked, "What are you talking about? Even if you oppress me like that, there's no way I'll obey." He immediately closed the door, thought for a moment, and then began to feel bewildered. Why did this formerly pathetic young master suddenly become so cool? Elsewhere, Merlin leisurely walked past the swordsmanship training area. The young man thought to himself, "It seems young Master Vincent arrived early today." Suddenly, something startled Merlin. He looked at the straw dummy and exclaimed what this straw dummy was cut in two with a single sharp slash impossible. "From what I've seen, young Master Vincent only uses a wooden sword. But this is too precise. Is it really possible to improve like this, young Master Vincent? What kind of swordsmanship are you learning?" At this time, Vincent was leisurely enjoying his breakfast after finishing his meal. Vincent changed his clothes. Wilson accepted his place and sat on the floor to fold each set of clothes for Vincent. Julian said with amusement, "Hasn't that wretch Wilson become incredibly obedient? He's just a little stubborn. Just leave him be and he'll fall in line." Suddenly, Vincent lifted his sleeve, looked at it, and asked Wilson about my clothes. "Are they made of Leviton fabric?" Wilson asked, confused, what kind of fabric. Vincent explained further, "This type is very cost-effective, but in return it gets dirty easily. This kind isn't good enough for a nobleman like me to use, and as for the food, compared to our family's budget dishes, like these are of very poor quality." Julian asked, puzzled, "What do you mean?" Vincent replied, "Someone has been stealing money. They've definitely embezzled it." Julian asked in surprise, "What is it, Wilson?" Wilson stammered, "Leviton embezzled." Seeing Wilson's fearful trembling, they were helpless. Vincent said, "It's not Wilson, he wouldn't dare. It must be someone above him." In another scene, Ravan was training hard, his muscular body making the ladies drool. Ravan recalled Vincent once saying, "Why are you so scared thinking of this?" Ravan couldn't help but get angry. He roared, "Who's scared?" Then Ravan swung the wooden sword in a frantic slash. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door from outside asking if Ravan was there. "It looks like you're training very hard, son." Hearing the sound, Ravan turned and called out, "Father." Ravan's father said fiercely, "Ravan, you don't have much time left until the tournament. The true sword tournament. We need to escape this life of poverty and sorrow. If you want to help our branch family, then you must defeat Vincent." Hearing these words, Ravan replied, "I know." Ravan's father gripped his arm tightly and shouted, You absolutely must become one of the branch family members who can overthrow the main family. Do you understand?" Faced with this, Ravan could only nod and reply, "Yes, sir." Ravan thought to himself, as the tournament approaches, Father is more irritable than usual. Day by day, his obsession is getting worse. "Vincent, if I can just defeat that bastard, Father and my clan can return to the prosperous days they once had." Meanwhile, Julian said with amusement, "So it's finally over now." Information about the participants in the True Sword tournament. Vincent said, "What the hell is this?" Not only their personal information, but it also has the special techniques they often use and even their habits. Julian said smugly, "How about that? Pretty amazing, right?" Vincent turned and replied, "You're truly terrifying." "You're giving me goosebumps," Julian replied with amusement. "I'll take that as a compliment then." Vincent asked curiously, "Your plan is to make a grand debut at the True Sword tournament by borrowing the power of the Spirit King." "Right," Julian replied. "That's right. And the Divine Stone, this is the Mana Gem. It will be awarded to the champion. If you absorb that gem, your body and mana will both become stronger instantly, as miraculous as its name suggests." Vincent thought to himself, "From the information he gathered and his expression, I can clearly see how badly the kid wants me to win. It would be a disgrace for a warrior to still lose when I have all the information I need." Vincent said, "Even if I'm not a Spirit King like you, but I will win this tournament to obtain the things I need." Then Vincent immediately rang the bell for Wilson. Instantly, Wilson opened the door panting and asked, "Yes, young master, what is it?" Vincent got straight to the point. "There's something I need you to do for me, Wilson." Elsewhere, in another room, a voice came from outside. "It's Wilson. May I come in?" Wilson slowly opened the door and asked, "Are you well?" Head attendant Ryusa, seeing Wilson appear, Ryusa coldly asked, "What is it?" Wilson trembled and thought to himself, "She's a level 7 warrior after all. She's so intimidating." Wilson then replied, "Young Master Vincent has a message for the family head." Ryusa calmly replied, "Is that so? It seems he doesn't even dare to come and see the family head himself." Wilson continued, "He wishes for the family head to attend the True Sword tournament. He said he will prove his own worth as a member of the main Adenka family." As soon as he finished, Ryusa said the family head never attends the True Sword tournament. He has no time. And he also has no reason to. Before she could finish, Wilson took out a piece of paper, placed it on the table, and said, "This is the price for embezzling the budget. Your job is to make the impossible become possible." Hearing these words, Ryusa's voice lowered as she asked, "What did you just say?" Wilson hastily replied, "I know. I was just relaying what the young master told me." Ryusa said angrily, "That's enough, get out of here." As soon as she finished speaking, Wilson immediately ran off. At this moment, Ryusa thought to herself, he could have come here himself, but he didn't. Even if he had come himself, it wouldn't have intimidated me much more. Did he deliberately send Wilson here to show me that he has power? He has finally gotten much smarter. Elsewhere, a man was training relentlessly. Ryusa slowly stepped inside. Sensing her presence, the old man called out loudly, "Ryusa." Hearing her name called, Ryusa replied, "Family head young master Vincent wishes to invite you to attend the True Sword Tournament." As soon as she finished, the man spoke. "It seems you have become far too involved." Ryusa stopped with these meaningless acts. Before he could finish, Ryusa quickly explained he said that he would prove his worth as a member of the main Adenka family. Hearing this, the old man fell silent and then said, "Prove his worth, Ryusa. In your opinion, do you think Vincent is qualified to speak of his worth within the clan?" Ryusa replied, "Of course not. That is why he has promised to prove his worth this time." Ryusa bowed solemnly and said, "Please attend, family head. I will be your witness." As soon as she finished, the head of Adenka replied, "Do you know what that means?" Ryusa replied, "Yes. If young Master Vincent cannot prove himself, I will sacrifice my life." The head of Adenka expressed, "I don't understand why you would do such a thing." Ryusa replied, "It is because young Master Vincent has struck my weakness." The head of Adenka pressed, "It's because you embezzled the budget, isn't it? You are surely doing this for Vincent's benefit. You intended to use that money for Vincent's future." Ryusa looked ashamed. "It is my fault." The head of Adenka continued, "I have no reason to interfere." "That is your affair. I do not wish to be too involved. But whatever method that boy used to express his intentions to me, as long as he doesn't lose a shred of his dignity. Is that boy truly Saravana's son?" Then the head of Adenka stood up. "All right, you win. I will attend the True Sword Tournament." In the blink of an eye, the day of the True Sword Tournament arrived. The fine young men have gathered here. Ravan, carrying a heavy responsibility, entered the hall. He said to himself, "Prepare yourself, Vincent. Today I will definitely defeat you." Revan glanced up. On the grandstand, a figure caught his attention. Ravan wondered, that person is... It can't be. Family head Khan. Seeing Khan, Ravan thought smugly, he must have come here to see how I, the rising star among the collateral descendants, compete. "This is my chance. I will defeat you in a really cool pose in front of the family head." At that moment, the referee's voice rang out, "The True Sword Tournament will now begin." The starting call just ended. Revan said gleefully, "This is such a bother, just drop dead already." Faced with this, Ravan's opponent was not at all scared. He raised his sword high and said, "How dare you be so arrogant?" Suddenly, the sword shattered into many pieces, startling Ravan, who exclaimed, "What did you just do? Did you think that trick would work on my steel body attribute?" Then Ravan landed a powerful kick on his opponent. Witnessing the fight, Ravan's father shouted excitedly, "That's it. That's the way, Ravan," everyone present exclaimed in admiration. No wonder he's called the rising star among the Branch family's descendants. He's so young and has already reached the 2-star threshold. That defensive attribute is so impressive. Could a descendant of the Branch family really win this competition for the first time in history? Vincent, standing to one side, thought to himself. By the standards of 500 years ago, they are all geniuses, extremely bright geniuses. But they have almost no deep understanding of swordsmanship. Their strength comes mainly from their own attributes. From their movements, I can't see any combat experience. It's as if they are puppets dancing on an answer sheet. That must be why he can use his attribute and attack so predictably. After his opening victory, Ravan arrogantly bowed to the crowd's cheers. He thought to himself, "I'll give you credit for not running away. Vincent, hurry up and get here. I'll be waiting for you." Meanwhile, family head Khan was still watching the competition intently. The atmosphere in the entire hall grew increasingly heated as one by one opponents were easily defeated by Ravan. The bell rang. "Stop, the match is over. The winner is Ravan Adenka." Ravan laughed smugly and said, "It's over. I, Ravan Adenka, have defeated all my opponents. Now, as per the rules established by all the elders have requested, I will fight my dear friend Vincent Adenka in the final match of the True Sword Tournament. I will fight the direct descendant of the family." As soon as he finished, Vincent proudly replied, "I accept your challenge." Then Vincent stepped onto the stage. The two faced each other. The man standing between them introduced himself. "I am Jason, the referee for this sword tournament. As the two were preparing, Vincent suddenly interrupted. "Wait, I have one condition," Vincent called out loudly. "Wilson!" Immediately, Wilson brought a wooden sword to Vincent. Full of confidence, Vincent declared, "I will only use this wooden sword and my left hand to fight my distant relative. I will also grant him a 3-move handicap." Hearing these words, Revan's father was utterly bewildered. "What is he talking about?" The crowd murmured in astonishment. "I've heard some negative rumors about him. Has he gone mad?" "I don't know," Vincent continued, "until the first 3 attacks are complete. I will not move a single step from where I am currently standing." As soon as he finished, Revan roared in anger. "What the hell are you doing, Vincent? How long are you going to mock me?" Everyone started chattering. "This is absurd. Isn't young Master Vincent completely unskilled in martial arts? So what if he's a direct descendant? How can he be so arrogant?" Revan's father shouted angrily, "Young Master Vincent is just doing this to make an excuse for when he loses." Immediately after, Clan Head Khan calmly replied, "I permit it." Hearing this, Revan's father reluctantly nodded and said, "Yes, Clan Head." Clan Head Khan then said, "Vincent, you had better prove it with your actions, not just with your words." Vincent replied confidently, "I will do so, Clan Head." After the terms were agreed upon, Jason announced, "In that case, the duel with the direct descendant will now begin. Both sides get ready." Revan said furiously, "Come on then, Vincent." Vincent smiled and replied, "Didn't you hear what I said? I already told you I'd grant you the first 3 attacks." Jason raised the flag and shouted, "Begin." As soon as he finished, Revan immediately said, "If that's the case, then die right where you stand." He then immediately attacked. Vincent calmly observed, silently counting the first attack. Flashing back to a moment before, Vincent had told Julian that there was a high probability it would be a short thrust. Just as predicted, Vincent quickly dodged to the side. He said, "Let's see how long your arrogance lasts." With his blade at Vincent's neck, Revan thought smugly, "I've got him." Vincent thought to himself, "Most of these are just feints. The real attack will be the second thrust." Revan said arrogantly, "Now I have you where I want you, Vincent." Faced with this, Vincent calmly sighed to himself. His movements are so obvious. I could see them even without Julian's information. Because his attribute prevents him from taking damage, he doesn't even pay attention to the basics. Vincent frowned and said, "From the very beginning, good swords were not meant for thrusting." With just a flick of his wrist, Vincent deflected Revan's attack, causing Revan to exclaim, "Did he just redirect my sword? Impossible. To be able to see where my sword was going, he would have to be many levels stronger than me." Vincent smirked and said, "I've already allowed you 2 attacks." As soon as he finished, Revan, shamed into a rage, yelled, "You bastard, don't get cocky just because you learned a few cheap tricks." Then Revan furiously launched his 3rd attack, but unfortunately for him, Vincent easily caught his hand and tripped him with his leg, causing Revan to lose his balance. Immediately after, Revan fell painfully to the ground. Revan lay sprawled on the ground, crying out, while Vincent coolly said, "That was the 3rd attack." Revan asked in confusion, "How did you—" Vincent said to himself, "Julian, I will keep my promise to you and my promise to Father as well." He picked up the wooden sword. "Now it's my turn to attack." Witnessing this scene, everyone's jaws dropped in astonishment, and even the referee Jason was no exception. Clan Head Khan was on the edge of his seat, frowning as he observed the situation. Revan's father screamed in a rage, "What are you doing?" "Revan, get up. How can you be struggling against a guy who doesn't even know how to use mana?" Even Revan was bewildered, wondering to himself, "What is happening?" Julian said in surprise, "What's going on?" "I see." "Vincent, I couldn't see clearly." Vincent replied, "That's basic hand-to-hand combat. Standing still without attacking is also an effective defense. That way you can observe your opponent. There are many ways to overwhelm an opponent without using a weapon." After a moment of thought, Revan said, "Now I understand. Gaining an advantage in such a short time. It must be thanks to the help of a little god. Aren't you ashamed?" As soon as he finished, Julian said angrily, "Little god, he's gone too far." Vincent said, "If it makes you feel better, then go on and think that way. But those thoughts of yours will end here." Revan flew into a rage and said, "Shut up, your cheating tricks will also end here." Faced with this situation, Julian shouted in panic, "It's dangerous to block this blow dodge to the left." Vincent calmly replied, "I know." Then Vincent quickly dodged to the side. He used his sword to immediately block the attack. Vincent thought, "Damn it, my chance has come." Immediately, Vincent used the wooden sword to strike Revan's neck, causing Revan to exclaim in confusion, "What? Why doesn't it hurt at all?" Hearing this, Revan's father flew into a rage. "Of course it doesn't." A practice sword could never break through a defense as hard as steel. Vincent thought, with an untrained body, I can't use any powerful skills yet, but if he's confident enough, he will attack with... Move one more time. Ravon laughed smugly. Let me show you that the gap between us cannot be bridged by that limited talent of yours. At this moment, Vincent calculated how to use the power from his opponent's attack. As Ravon was about to launch his next attack towards Vincent, he immediately unleashed a critical strike. Ravon was knocked far back. Vincent said, Referee Jason, it would be best if you found a way to prevent a disaster from happening. These words made Jason's jaw drop in astonishment. At this moment, Vincent knew to himself that he only had one chance. Then Vincent immediately rushed forward to attack. He thought, if I use this skill one more time, my body will shatter. I have to finish this while he's suspended in midair. After that move, faced with Vincent's attack, Ravon couldn't help but be shocked. Ravon roared in anger, You bastard! Looking at Ravon's movements, Vincent thought, I can see the trails of light that Ravon leaves behind. And the trails of light I create form a sword path that connects us both. Watch closely, Julian. This is the technique I have been practicing. After speaking, Vincent executed a bizarre move for Julian to witness. Instantly, Vincent's wooden sword severed Ravon's right arm. Witnessing this, Ravon's father's eyes widened in horror. Clanhead Khan was surprised by Vincent's true strength. At this moment, Vincent thought, quickly take advantage of the opponent's imbalance. Unleash a finishing move and use it to control everything, including the opponent's movements. This is called swordsmanship. Ravon screamed incessantly. My arm, Referee Jason couldn't believe his eyes. Impossible! Vincent turned and said, Referee, what are you doing? Do I have to cut off his leg as well to be declared the victor? As soon as he finished speaking, Jason immediately raised the flag and declared, The champion is Vincent. Ravon's father hurriedly ran over, shouting, Ravon, stop the bleeding quickly! The referee looked worried. Medicine alone won't work. Healer, call a healer over here. Vincent said smugly, I did tell you to find a way to prevent this. Hearing this, Jason bowed his head and replied, I'm sorry, it was my fault. Julian seemed very intrigued. How are you so calm? Your body has already reached its limit. You need to rest soon. Vincent replied coldly, I know, but it's not time to rest yet. Vincent said, I have kept my promise, father. At this moment, Clanhead Khan sat calmly in the stands looking at Vincent. He thought, you said that. You would directly prove your strength to the Adenka family. After pondering for a moment, Clanhead Khan replied, I understand. The champion of the Grand Sword Tournament is Vincent. Vincent stood below looking up at his father. Then Clanhead Khan told everyone to go inside. The award ceremony will begin now. Night had fallen, blanketing the castle. Everyone had gathered here. Clanhead Khan took out a sparkling object and placed it on the table. He said, The one who has won will receive this divine stone. Vincent came forward and bowed to receive the prize. Suddenly, Ravon's father ran in panting and said, This is completely unreasonable. There must have been some trickery involved. He borrowed the power of some lesser god. The healer from behind spoke up, saying, Family Head, a small problem has occurred. Family Head Khan asked what problem, and the healer explained further, it seems, young Master Ravon's arm cannot be reattached anymore. Ravon was lying on the bed, his severed arm being painstakingly treated by the healers, but he was still in immense pain. Charlie asked in disbelief, What are you saying? Will Ravon forever have only one arm? The healer bowed his head and said, I am truly sorry. Charlie nearly went insane. He grabbed the priest by the collar and loudly questioned, You people are priests, and yet you can't even do something as simple as reattaching an arm. This is a type of wound we have never seen before. Elsewhere, Julian called out to Vincent with some concern, but he just frowned without speaking immediately. Julian let the other priests leave. While he stayed behind to explain the situation, this wound is quite strange, it is difficult to describe, and it seems to have been severed by something that my divine power cannot control. If we do not act quickly, even a higher-ranking priest will not be able to heal it anymore. Charlie was now in tears. He angrily accused, Just look at this family head. It is just this one wound, and a third-rank priest like him cannot even heal it. He must have learned many dark techniques. Surely some power is helping him. As soon as he finished speaking, the others began to whisper amongst themselves, and Julian finally spoke up, asking, Is it all right? After receiving approval from Family Head Khan, Vincent stepped forward very calmly and said the true sword convention was held in the presence of the family head. Therefore, any and all actions had to be approved by the authority of the family head, and the family head has declared me as the final victor. Therefore, all of your words have been outright rejected by the authority of the family head. This is also a place where many special guests have gathered, Charlie. Do you believe your judgment is superior to that of the family head? Faced with a difficult question, he immediately bit his lip as sweat began to pour down without letting him explain. Vincent immediately ordered Jerome arrest him. Jerome hesitated and asked, by him, you mean? Vincent confirmed, yes, the father of our dear Ravan. Charlie clenched his fists. What if you are a descendant of the main family? How dare you? Not letting him finish, Vincent glared and questioned, are you questioning the authority of the family head in this place? Do I need to say more? Jerome dared not disobey and replied, I will follow your orders. He went over, tied Charlie with a rope, and forced him to kneel on the ground. He struggled and screamed, what are you doing? Let me go. Just then, the cold voice of the family head of Adenka rang out. Charlie, do you realize that you are indebted to Vincent? The laws of Adenka do not forgive the same crime a second time if Vincent had not done this here. You would have had to face the clan's punishment. As we are both fathers, I will forgive you this time. So do not complain a single time more. Charlie finally turned pale and bowed his head low. Yes, family head. Family head Khan then turned and praised, you did well, Vincent. He placed a hand on his chest and bowed slightly in thanks. Julian couldn't help but be pleased and smiled, asking, you look so happy, don't you? He scratched his head and replied, it is nothing, I am so embarrassed. It is truly a precious experience to be praised by the family head. On the bed, Ravan could not endure the pain and cried out. Seeing this, Charlie worriedly turned and called out Ravan. A priest came over and used divine power to ease the pain at that moment. His right arm would be forever unsavable. Ravan painfully tried to say no. Julian leaned close to Vincent and whispered Vincent. Vincent asked doubtfully, will it be all right? Julian affirmed this will definitely be an advantageous opportunity for us. Seeing this, he reluctantly agreed, all right. I will do as you say. Then Vincent went over to the priest and said, priest, that right arm. Can the divine stone help heal it? The priest seemed hesitant about that. He thought with doubt, the prize being used to heal young Master Ravan. It is a divine stone and he is telling me to use it. Vincent smiled and said, I will assume that it is possible. He then spoke clearly. I was the one who severed Ravan's right arm. Would it be all right if I handled this situation? Family head Khan narrowed his eyes and said, very well. I will leave it to you. Vincent went before Charlie and said, Revan mocked and laughed in my face in the arena. He hurriedly pleaded, I am sorry, I did not know how to raise him properly. I sincerely apologize, please forgive him. Vincent suddenly drew a sword from someone in the room and that person cried out, my sword. He said everything should be proven by actions, then swung the sword and cut Charlie's bonds. While the man was still in shock, Vincent stated his condition showed the remorse befitting the head of a family. Then I will use the divine stone to heal Ravan. Charlie asked doubtfully, what do you want? Vincent's eyes were cold as he looked at him and said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And for a right arm, I will need someone else's right arm. At this, Charlie could not help but be shocked. His pupils constricted and veins bulged. Vincent coldly looked at Ravan on the bed and thought sarcastically, what a useless brat. I know that he is fully conscious again. He refuses to speak a word no matter how things are unfolding. Is your right arm that important to you? Where has the filial piety of this generation gone? After a moment of internal struggle, Charlie took the sword, placed his right arm on the table, and said, all right, I will sacrifice my right arm. Despite his words, Charlie was still trembling violently. The sharp blade slowly lowered. Julian remarked, it seems he really loves his son, doesn't he? Vincent replied, that is right, it looks quite strange, but it is still a father's love. Charlie gritted his teeth. I must do this for Ravan. I have to cut off my own right arm. He let out a loud shout, then raised the sword high, preparing to chop down on his arm. At this very moment, Vincent coldly glanced to the side and said, I told you to prevent any risks. In a flash, Jerome swung his sword, shattering the blade that was about to cut Charlie's arm. He panted in fear, as if unable to believe what had just happened. Jerome, having acted in time, let out a sigh of relief. Vincent reminded him, I hope you will make better use of this courage next time. After speaking, he knelt before his father and reported everything has been resolved. Family head, are you satisfied? The family head smiled, held up the divine stone, and said, very good, Vincent. He cupped his two hands to receive the stone, then held it out before the priest and said, hurry. The priest obeyed. He took the stone and held it in his mouth while his hands channeled divine power as circles of light appeared. O goddess of healing, please show your mercy and grant us a miracle. After praying, he crushed the stone, and the power from it, combined with his divine power, flew to Ravan's arm, reconnecting the wound. Charlie looked overjoyed. Ravan's arm. Julian exclaimed the precious divine stone. Vincent smirked and said, you were the one who told me to give it to him. Julian expressed with some regret, I still cannot help but feel sad about it. Vincent somewhat agreed that is true. It is a difficult item to obtain. Outside the door, Wilson was pressing his ear against it to eavesdrop, his face full of excitement. He silently praised the young master as so cool, so damn cool. He remembered the time before. Vincent had once said, "There will come a time when you must choose to either oppose me or swear your loyalty." At this moment, Wilson had made his decision. He clenched his fists, of course. Absolute loyalty is much cooler. Wilson stood cheerfully in the doorway, smiling broadly at Vincent, and called out, "Young master." He announced, "I will begin preparing dinner shortly." Vincent nodded all right and dismissed him. Julian wondered what is wrong with him. In response, Vincent leaned back in his chair and said, "Isn't this what you wanted? For him to see me as his master?" Julian sighed, "Of course not. I am aiming for something much greater than that." A knock came from the door outside. Julian wondered he brought it already. Wow, that was fast, huh? Meanwhile, Vincent sat up straight and said, "Come in." A man wearing a cloak entered and asked, "Have you been well lately?" "Young master," he said with uncertainty, "you are." The man placed a hand on his chest, bowed respectfully, and said, "Good evening." Then he introduced himself. "I am Dulan, a cleric of Gale." Vincent wondered why a cleric would come here. He approached the table right in front of him and answered, "I have come to express my gratitude for what happened earlier, which greatly surprised Julian. A cleric came here just to give thanks. He presented the divine stone and said, 'Please accept this.' Vincent was a little confused and asked, 'Why are you giving this to me?' Dulan replied, 'I am returning this divine stone to you because you helped heal young Master Ravan today. Helping those who suffer first to be able to stand up again, then smile and become happy is the reason I became a cleric." He continued with the glowing stone in his hand. However, seeing young Master Vincent today, I was ultimately at a loss for words. I had weighed the value of the magic stone against human life. And as if to mock me, you voluntarily gave up the magic stone you had just won. He pressed the stone into his hand, adding, "Thanks to young Master Vincent, we were able to reflect upon ourselves. Please take this back." Holding the stone in his hand, he smiled. I did not do anything. It was the priest who realized it himself. However, accepting this is a reasonable way to show my respect for you. Dolan bowed his head and thanked him. He fumbled for something else, a card with a laurel wreath and the number 2. "If you ever need the temple's help, please show them this card." They both stared at the card. Dolan explained, "Although this news has not reached the public yet, I recently became a rank 2 priest." Julian was utterly astonished. Rank 2. He is a rank 2 priest. Vincent glanced over and asked, "Is this thing very good?" Julian explained, "Good, that card is like telling them to treat me like a rank 2 priest." In any case, Vincent had no idea what it meant to be a rank 2 priest. Dolan bowed respectfully. "Thanks to you, I have learned a great deal." "Thank you." Then he left. Vincent held the card in his hand, smiled, and said, "Take care." Julian leaped onto the table, sat in front of Vincent, and said in a raised voice, "See, we got something much better than Wilson's loyalty, did we not?" Vincent sighed. "That is right, you are really good, Julian." The boy beamed. "Praising me directly like that makes me a little shy." Vincent added, "I do not know if it is because you have been looked down on your whole life. But you are easily swayed by praise, are you not?" Julian was startled. "That is right, speaking of which I just remembered. Father usually eats alone, but there was one time he invited a family member to have dinner with him after the True Sword tournament took place." Vincent asked curiously, "Who was it?" The answer was the second child, your crazy sister. She achieved an overwhelming victory in a True Sword tournament. He asked Julian, "Are you saying there is a chance that will happen tonight?" Julian nodded. "That is right, 50-50. Hearing that, Vincent stood up. "My body does not feel very comfortable, but I guess I cannot rest now." Julian said anxiously, "I said it was 50-50. He put on his cloak and replied, "If it is what you said, it is better to be prepared, even if it is just a 1% chance." Julian raised a hand to scratch his head, smiling shyly. How embarrassing. Wilson burst in from outside, opening the door and calling out. Young Master Vincent turned around and said sternly, "What is with all the commotion?" A hint of worry appeared in his eyes, and Wilson stammered, "It is the Patriarch. The Patriarch just—" Before he could finish, Vincent walked past him and said, "He is inviting me, is he not? Let us go." "Lead the way?" Wilson thought to himself he even predicted this. Damn, that is so cool. That evening, at the residence of the Adenka family patriarch, Vincent arrived and was walking alone down a long corridor when a woman with a flower in her hair appeared before him. "Hurry along, Vincent," she said, slightly surprising him. The woman was his stepmother. She said, "I heard you just won an incredible victory at the tournament. The True Sword tournament, was it not?" He placed a hand on his chest and bowed. "Thank you." He thought to himself that his birth mother had passed away after giving birth to him, and the woman before him was his stepmother. Julian's voice added, she is Vexa Helen. Before her retirement, she was such a skilled martial artist that people nicknamed her the Giant. Currently, she holds control over everything related to the Adenka family. She turned and said, "Let us go. Father is waiting for you." The door to the patriarch's room slowly opened. The two of them silently entered. Before them now was Khan Adenka, the current patriarch of the family and also Vincent's father. He sat there motionlessly and called Vincent's name. Along with that sound came a gaze filled with pressure. An oppressive aura stared straight at him. The entire room seemed to sway. Vincent found it hard to breathe from the pressure weighing on his lungs. He thought to himself, I did not feel this way all day. That means this must be a test for me. He is probably testing whether my strength from the True Sword tournament was real or fake. Vincent looked up and spoke. I do not think you need to intentionally put pressure on your son during a private meeting, Father. The patriarch, still sitting with his hands clasped and a flow of mana surrounding his body, said, Why do you think so? He smiled. Because when Mother greeted me, she called you Father, not Patriarch. The two looked at each other, surprised that he could grasp the situation based on such a small detail. He raised his hand, dispelling the pressure. Very good, you noticed that. Still with the demeanor of the patriarch, he sat there and said, I called you here for 2 reasons. First, to congratulate you on your victory today, and second, to see about Charlie's concerns. About how strong this Adenka really is. Recalling the day of the tournament, he had yelled, Look, Patriarch, if a rank 3 priest cannot heal it, then how? Could that technique possibly be learned through any conventional method? There is definitely something wrong with this. Vincent also felt a flicker of worry, but did not know how to begin. Suddenly, it was as if an eye from behind him was trying to see through to his very soul, terrifying Vincent. It was none other than the eye of his stepmother, Vexa. Staring straight at him, Vincent stood rooted to the spot, silent sweat breaking out on his slightly timid face. Khan Adenka asked, could he be an apostle? Vexa replied, it does not seem so. Besides, did the boy not deny it? Vincent's whole body trembled. He wondered, what is this horrific feeling I am experiencing? Julian answered, it must be your mother's special technique. She possesses eyes that can see through the truth. The patriarch asked further, so what kind of martial art is it? Vincent cannot use mana yet. How could it sever the arm of a rank 2 martial artist? Vexa replied that swordsmanship resembles the recorded sword techniques of the brave king. Hearing that, Vincent immediately asked, the brave king you speak of, is that Kajin Samuel? She replied, that is right. He used his sword in strange ways, and it is said that it can purge any evil power. It is also rumored that his sword could suppress the great demon Davin. Vincent frowned slightly, thinking once again this fabricated history leaves me speechless. Kajin and the Samuel family, what are they trying to achieve by doing this? She stepped in front of him, placed both hands on his shoulders, and looked at him with her eyes of truth. Vexa asked, so tell me that swordsmanship so similar to the hero of the Samuel clan. How did you learn it, my son? You will tell me, will you not? At this moment, his whole body seemed dazed. Looking at the man before him, Vincent thought his father had summoned him, but it seemed his mother was the one leading this conversation. I am being interrogated about the true origin of the martial art I use. As he was hesitating, about to give an answer, Julian immediately appeared and stopped him. The boy said she has the ability to use her eyes to distinguish between truth and lies. If you give some clumsy excuse, she will definitely become suspicious of you. Facing the pressures of the eyes of truth, Vincent wondered, so what should I do now? Tell her I am not her son, but actually an old man from 500 years ago. Julian placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him, and the boy wanted to try. The eyes of truth still had not left Vincent. Vexa continuously urged, come on, hurry and tell me. Vincent remained rooted to the spot, speechless, turning to rush Julian. The boy was tearing his hair out, afraid the woman would discover he was putting on an act. Vincent used his experience to advise the boy. Julian, it is just one step. Vincent added, overcoming your fear takes just one step. You just need to take one step forward. The rest will follow naturally. Let me take that first step for you. He gave a confident smile and then answered, I received a divine oracle. The answer greatly surprised Vexa. The atmosphere in the large room became quiet for a moment. She spoke up, you received a divine oracle but received no blessing. Do you not know that only villains receive a divine oracle without being granted a blessing? Vincent was silent and extremely worried. Damn it, Julian did not tell me about this part. Vexa began to question him. Why are you not saying anything? You are acting very suspiciously. Do you want to go through a trial at the Holy Court? Or perhaps you would like to stand before Judge Garami? And Vincent coughed once. Julian from behind now began to speak. Repeat after me. The two of them began to answer the questioning in unison. If you find me suspicious, Mother, you can go verify it with the temple. Hearing the word temple, Vexa tilted her head slightly to look at him. Vincent took out the stone and continued, if I were truly a villain, would a bishop with a magic stone in his hands? A rank 3-1 at that not have found out. The stepmother wondered, isn't that the magic stone I gave to Dulan? Vincent answered honestly, yes, this was a gift. With her eye of truth, she discovered that he wasn't lying at all. Her eye showed no reaction. Visa, still not entirely convinced, asked again, did you really learn that swordsmanship through a divine revelation? Vincent placed a hand on his chest and replied, I have learned many things from the divine revelation, however, I did not learn this swordsmanship from it. Actually, I read records of these secret sword techniques a long time ago, but was always hesitant about whether I should learn them or not. This was the truth the two of them told her. But I don't want to stay like this forever, even though to someone else. My actions may seem suspicious, but if I do nothing, I feel too weak. This was also the truth of both of them, the truth of both identities that could fool the eye of truth. Vincent continued, I feel that I have to prove something. Only then can I surpass the Samuel family and fulfill the mission of the Adenka family. I want to prove that I am much stronger than those relatives. At this moment, in his identity as Davin, he looked towards Julian and smiled. See, you did it. Vincent added, and I also want to prove myself to Father, the stern man before him, Khan Adenka, head of this family. He directed his gaze towards his father, who was sitting there, because I thought Father would make the right judgment. Currently, the temple has already approved it. Now everything depends on Father's decision. He sat there, raising his hand to stroke his chin, appearing to be deep in thought. Visa turned to see and smiled faintly, thinking, look, he's stroking his chin. He doesn't even realize it himself, but that's what he always does whenever he's pleased with something. Khan crossed his two arms over his chest and said sternly, and this is my decision, Vincent can continue to practice that martial art. This declaration made him very happy, and he immediately thanked his father, while Julian also breathed a sigh of relief, having overcome the ordeal. Visa added to the family head, surely you are aware that the swordsmanship of the valiant King Kajin is very similar to that of the great demon Davin, isn't it? His face remained stern and unchanging as the head of the family. He was fully aware of this matter. Visa added, if we say he's using the valiant king's swordsmanship, the Samuel family will cause an uproar claiming we stole it from them, but if we say it's the great demon's swordsmanship, then they won't be able to say anything. She still had some doubts. Can I assume your decision was made after considering these things? The family head's face turned serious, his gaze sharp as he affirmed, I have considered everything that needs to be considered. My lady, hearing the family head's answer, the stepmother finally sighed in relief. She turned to Vincent and said, since the family head has approved, it means he will be the one to take responsibility for all of these matters. Therefore, you must do your absolute best to become stronger and not cause him any trouble. He thought to himself that wasn't just a simple warning. She was reaffirming the family head's decision and also informing me that she had approved. He bowed respectfully. I will definitely keep this to heart. At this moment, the family head stood up and added, Vincent, you have achieved great things in the True Sword Tournament, and not only that, you have also affirmed your status as a direct descendant of this Adenka family. He stepped forward and approached him. Therefore, I will grant you one wish. What do you want? Vincent replied. I want to become stronger. Khan stood before him, although that is a good answer. But that is something you must achieve on your own. He looked down at him with a father's eyes. Tell me something I can do for you. Julian whispered, tell him you want to enter the library. Vincent followed his advice and asked for permission to enter the family library. The family head wondered, only warriors above 3 stars can enter the library. Have you reached the 3rd level already? He smiled, not yet. That is why I want to take this opportunity to act like a spoiled child. He smiled, all right. I will allow you into the lowest level library that a 3-star warrior can enter. The family head turned to Visa and ordered, my lady, please bestow blood link upon Vincent. She turned and smiled, as you command. He looked at his son and said, take it. That is the reward for keeping your promise to me that blood link is the sword your father used when he was young. It's what he used when he began to build his reputation in this world. Julian continued it itself as the history of the Adenka family holding the sharp sword in his hand. Vincent exclaimed, what a magnificent sword! To have been stored away for so long and still be so sharp, are you that happy? Julian flew around excitedly. The little boy replied, what are you talking about? I'm not that happy. Vincent said in a serious tone, if it's only this much. And you're already this happy then? That's not good at all. He smiled because in the future we will achieve even greater things, Julian thought to himself. At first I was disappointed that you weren't the Spirit King. But now I wonder if I had summoned the Spirit King as planned, would I have been able to achieve this much? Even though you are the bit reckless and a bit old-fashioned, I still feel I can entrust my entire body to you. Wilson was still standing in the courtyard waiting for his young master to return. Vincent emerged from the mansion and said to Wilson, "Let's go." He bowed respectfully. "Yes, my lord." As he was about to leave, Visa called out from behind Vincent, "Let's talk for a moment." She stepped down in front of him. "You must be putting a lot of effort into planning and training these days. I'm very proud of you." Vincent smiled. "Thank you, mother." Visa added, "Because of that, if you become the winner of the True Sword tournament, you will be forced to enter the Blood Citadel as is tradition. Have you thought about how you will subdue the Blood Demon?" Vincent thought the Blood Citadel is one of the training academies under the Adenka family's control. Only those who complete the test at the Blood Citadel can be considered a qualified warrior, and the condition to enter is to be the champion of the True Sword tournament and subdue the low-level demon, the Blood Demon. He hesitated and asked Julian, "How should I answer?" The little boy said, "You haven't thought of anything yet, have you?" Vincent looked straight into Visa's eyes and said, "I'm not sure yet." This surprised her a little. "Oh my, how unexpected. I thought you had it all planned out a long time ago." Visa seemed to see through his body and asked about that strange sword technique. "It seems that in the few times you've used it, it has caused your body great pain, hasn't it?" Vincent answered without hiding anything. "Yes, that's right," Mother Visa said seriously. "In that case, listen to me. You won't be able to defeat the Blood Demon in a single blow. If you fight in this condition, you will die." Julian hid behind Vincent and wondered, is she giving us advice? But Vincent thought that seems the stepmother has grown to like us more. Julian wondered, "Why do you think so?" Vincent replied coldly, "Have you forgotten my story? My enemies threw me in prison and distorted history with an eye that sees through lies, and as someone trusted by the Lord, she could have accused us of anything she wanted. But she didn't do that. Maybe she doesn't like us, but at least she isn't hostile towards me." Visa was just about to speak of the two words Blood Demon when Vincent bowed his head and interrupted. "Thank you for your advice, Mother. I will not disappoint you." She thought to herself, I was trying to explain the characteristics of the Blood Demon to him. But he left without asking anything, looking at Vincent's retreating back, a great warrior who knows no fear or hesitation. "My heart is moved," Visa smiled. "Do you see, Sarvana? Today your son has taken a great step on the path of martial arts." The next morning, Wilson was hanging laundry and singing, looking full of life as always. "Today I will support the young master with all my might." As he was lost in the moment, a suitcase flew and smacked him on the head. Along with a sharp voice from behind, "Support my ass. What are you scheming this time, huh?" Wilson clutched his aching head, turned around and complained, "Hey, what did I do wrong, Siri?" A maid with a huge suitcase stood before him. "You must be planning to cause trouble for the young master again." Hearing that, Wilson reacted fiercely. "Can't you see I'm hanging the laundry?" The girl glanced at him suspiciously. "You're really doing it." He puffed out his chest. "Because the young master has changed, so I, as his direct servant, should also change." The maid's eyes widened anyway. "What about the young master?" This question made Wilson chuckle inside the library where only the family's warriors were allowed. Vincent was sitting and reading amidst piles of books of all genres stacked all around him as if searching for something. He kept tossing books aside in frustration. "It's not here. I can't find what I need." He scratched his head in annoyance. "Why are there no records from 500 years ago?" Julian agreed. "That's right. There's nothing to be found from that specific period. It's as if it was all taken away. Even if there were, they would only be folk tales about the great demon king and the hero king." The boy added, "I predicted it wouldn't be in the records, but to this extent, doesn't it seem like someone deliberately erased it?" Vincent bowed his head in thought. "That's right, history from 500 years ago, and the swordsmanship too. Someone erased or changed it." Vincent thought to himself, "I need to save myself from being ostracized. But that can be for later. Right now, what's more important is that I must improve my swordsmanship to defeat the Blood Demon. I need a training method that goes beyond the Shadow Principle because I can't reach that level. Not right now, at least." Julian looked at Vincent curiously. "You call Father Aslan a child and use the swordsmanship of the so-called Hero King to face him?" the boy asked Vincent suspiciously. "Who are you really?" Vincent hesitated. "If I reveal that I am the great Demon King Davin, he will obviously be shocked. Should I be worried?" He crossed his arms and shook his head. That would be very disrespectful to Julian, the previous owner of this body. "You also carry the same fate as me." Vincent sighed. "Julian, listen carefully and don't get too confused." The boy got excited. "You must have something to tell me, right?" Vincent spoke my name as soon as he heard this. Julian's whole body froze as if electrocuted. The boy covered his ears and asked again, "Wait, say that again." "What did you just say?" Just like before Vincent could even mention his name, Davin loud noises appeared in Julian's ears, making the boy unable to hear anything. Vincent worriedly jumped to his feet and asked, "Are you okay?" The boy replied, "I'm fine. You don't have to tell me. I don't want to know anymore." While he was feeling skeptical, something caught his eye and drew his attention. It was an old book with a green cover titled First Love with the Water Wheel. Julian wondered why a book like this was among the mana cultivation books. Vincent picked it up, examined it, and replied, "This is the library managed by the family. How could a romance novel get mixed in here?" He smiled gleefully. Someone kept the secret records of history in a different form. The truth about the past. Vincent skimmed through the lines, which made him blush. It was a hot summer day, and I was naked, soaking in the water wheel. Both of them never expected the truth to be in a book written like this. Perhaps this is a different approach to avoid arousing suspicion from enemies. Vincent suddenly called out to Julian, startling the boy. He pointed to the book and asked, "The main character in this novel doesn't have a shadow principle, but they have a trait called the power of love. It's not an ordinary novel," he continued. Traits are not originally used to create mana flow, but their manifestation is caused by the mana flow to achieve this. One needs to throw away all those shadow principles. Without the shadow principle, the freedom of mana would make all this possible. Julian was astonished. There's no way to accumulate mana without a shadow principle. That person would die. Vincent closed the book, clenched his fist, and smiled. Right here is someone who accumulated mana without a shadow principle and still lived. Mana flows with each defined trait. Knowing this, we can clarify those traits as well. Both of them walked out satisfied. Julian added that learning traits is very dangerous, even with the help of the shadow principle. Traits are equivalent to a martial artist's fortune, so they wouldn't easily teach their mana flow to others. Vincent agreed, but we found a clue. To become stronger, he smiled, turned back to look at Julian, and said, "Let's go try it out now." Meanwhile, the boy warned, "Didn't you hear me say it's dangerous?" Just as Vincent stepped out of the library, the young maid was already standing there, waiting. She called out, "Young master," and looked at him very excitedly. "Is it true that you defeated Ravanadenka and were awarded the blood?" He wondered. "Julian, who is this?" The boy replied, "This is a maid named Siri. She was away for a while." Because of a family emergency, a stream of memories in his head made him remember her. One of the few people who still blindly loved the failure. "The Vincent of the past," he replied. "That's right, just as you said." Hearing the confirmation from the young master's own mouth, Siri dropped to her knees on the ground. Thank God the girl seemed emotional, raising a hand to wipe her tears, and said, "I thought that after the tournament the young master would be ignored even more." Vincent grimaced and asked Julian, "Do you know how to comfort a woman?" It was surprising that an old man from 500 years ago was asking a young boy about this matter. He knelt down and placed a hand on Siri's shoulder. "I'm sorry for keeping this a secret. I am training very hard to become a master you won't be ashamed of." While everyone was still emotional, a loud shout came from below. "Where have you been?" A familiar figure appeared. All three of them were quite surprised, their eyes widening at the appearance of Ravanadenka. He stood there staring at everyone with a sharp gaze. He said, "I have something to talk to you about." Vincent in the room. The atmosphere was somewhat heavy. Vincent and Revan sat opposite each other, with the maid Siri standing in the middle. She glanced worriedly at Revan, who hadn't made a move and had been sitting silently all this time. Julian wondered. I thought he wanted to say something, while Siri broke the atmosphere with a question. "Would the young masters like some sandwiches?" Then Revan suddenly stood up. He reached behind his back and drew a huge sword with a somewhat dangerous look in his eyes. Julian watched with a bit of worry, while Vincent still had the situation under control. Holding the large sword in his hand, Revan's face tensed. "I came here to return the favor for the True Sword tournament." Vincent noticed the strange behavior. Vincent stood up, intending to draw his Blood Lotus sword. He thought to himself, "Damn it, I didn't expect that guy to attack like this. He knows my sword skills now. The old method won't be effective anymore." Vincent got into a ready stance. He turned worriedly to the maid Siri and said, "Get out of here now." She placed a hand on her chest anxiously. "But I can't leave you behind." Siri was suddenly startled when she heard Ravan's words. "Vincent, I owe you a great deal." He planted his sword on the ground and continued, "You forgave my insolence and gave me the stone. It was your miracle. The coward like me tried to use my father's money to plant spies there, but then my spies returned and my father became gentle once more." Ravan suddenly knelt down. "I have gotten everything back, but I cannot repay you." He let go of the sword in his hand, tilting the hilt towards Vincent. "Right now, I am just a coward, but I won't be like that anymore." Ravan placed one hand on the ground and bowed his head to Vincent. "This is the best I can give you right now. I swear to always be loyal to you." This was something Vincent could not have expected. Siri, seeing this, was completely astonished and thought young Master Ravan is kneeling. Vincent smiled, thinking, in the end, he's not a hopeless case. Julian worriedly asked, "Are you going to trust him? This is Ravanadenka. You know, he explained he has placed his sword before me. This act signifies entrusting one's entire life to another as a martial artist. This kid is being serious." Julian said sarcastically, "It's those foolish martial artists again," but it seemed like he just thought of an idea. The boy smiled at Vincent. "I'll trust Ravan, but I have a great idea." Vincent drew his sword and said to Julian, "If you agree, then I will follow your will." Vincent placed the blood lotus on Ravon's shoulder, startling him a little. He added, "I accept your oath. I too will stand by you." "Until the moment you betray me." Ravon saw the sword and immediately thought, "I had my doubts, but this is really the blood lotus. Could it be that the patriarch has already appointed him? If so, then I won't regret swearing my loyalty." He smiled, bowed his head, and said, "Thank you for accepting it." Not even in her wildest dreams could Ciri have imagined what was happening. Before her eyes, she thought to herself, he has really changed. The time when he was called Vincent the Loser now feels like just a distant dream. Julian coughed lightly, his face quite satisfied. "Sorry for interrupting right after you received his loyalty." His eyes lit up. "Shall we give it a try? To find the blessed trait of the esteemed human king from Ravon." Meanwhile, at the Adenka family patriarch's mansion inside the study, the patriarch was writing something. Vespa stood beside him and said, "It seems Vincent is planning to participate in the Blood Citadel next year." He replied, "I already know what the blood demon subjugation is like." The old woman replied, "I already told the boy about the traits of the blood demon's form, but he didn't say anything at all. The boy looks very confident. Blood demons can only attack 3-star mana, or higher when they are not in their physical form. The reason the subjugation became a rite of passage is to see how a person confronts a demon. And as proof that they are capable of being a level 3 martial artist, Visa turned and added one more thing. A few days ago at Vincent's house, Ravan Adenka appeared and stayed there. Inside his body, a flow of mana was twisting like a thread. Julian and Ravon were both watching Vincent sit there, training to use the mana in his body. On the right, Ravon stood behind him, giving excellent guidance. "Create a circulatory loop one more time." On the left, Julian worried, "All right, be careful with this direction." Recalling a few days ago, they were reviewing the book found in the library together. Ravon picked it up and read, asking with curiosity, "You want to obtain the blessed trait of the pseudo-human king from me using the method in this book. Is it because you can't imagine it?" Vincent sat on the chair with his arms crossed and asked, "You'll help me, won't you?" Ravon put the book down and replied, "I would help if this wasn't such a nonsensical book," but he still smiled and said, "I will guide the flow of your ki, and you will have to sit and train right in front of me. Basically, you'll have to trust me with your life. Are you okay with that?" Vincent said something that left Ravon stunned. "You've already promised your loyalty to me, haven't you?" Back in the present, Ravon was looking at Vincent, wondering if he could trust Vincent. With his entire life, if he were in that position, if it were me, it would be impossible. He chuckled softly. "There it is again. You're making me look pathetic, Vincent, but it's not so bad. This is the first time losing has made me happy." Looking at his form, Ravon could only marvel at the flow of mana. It has spread throughout his entire body. Who would have thought someone from the main family could use such an insane method? Vincent's eyes were shut tight, focusing intensely on the mana flow in his body. Julian reminded him, "Don't just do as you please. Slow down a bit." Vincent replied, "Are you going to lecture me forever? You were the one who proposed the plan to use Ravon to get this Julian." The boy worried, "How can I not lecture you when you keep doing things your own way? You're just tumbling along the edge of a cliff." Ravon also started to chime in, "Vincent, you're being too willful. You're already fast enough, there's no need to rush." With his past, Vincent was adamant, "This is how I live, Julian. I can't obtain anything without putting my life on the line at that moment. You can only try to risk it and move forward." Julian held his head, worried, "Vincent, at this rate you'll die." But the mana flows didn't stop, and the two ends were getting closer than ever, all to prepare for the connection. Just a little more, just a little bit more. The flow will be complete if I can connect it like this. The two streams of mana from both sides were about to connect along with Vincent's intense concentration. Seeing this, Ravon rushed forward, trying to stop Vincent. It's still too early, but the two ends of the mana flow had already connected. A few sparks of mana shot out. He laughed joyfully. "I did it." His whole body was drenched in sweat. But then snap, the mana flow that had just connected was immediately severed, and boom! An explosion erupted, seeming to blow away everything in Vincent's room. Inside the room, everything was broken and in shambles. Ravon staggered as thick smoke billowed. He coughed, his body trembling as he fell backward, not knowing Vincent's condition. In the family head study, Khan spoke up. "There's still about half a year before the next Hienthan opens, right?" Vexa replied respectfully, "Yes, that's correct." He added, "Vincent has defeated a 2-star martial artist. For him, that's probably just his normal level of strength." The stepmother was a little worried, and she hoped so too. Revan, who had managed to get up, asked worriedly, "Vincent, are you okay?" He raised his arm and waved, replying, "I'm fine." Ravon was a little angry. "You pushed yourself too hard. It even took me half a year. You're incredibly fast, but it should take at least 2 months. Kana Denka gave the number 1 month. He ordered Vexa to relay a message to Vincent, "Defeat the Blood Fiend in 1 month." At the same time, Vincent was still dazed from the explosion. Julian took the chance to lecture him. "What did I tell you?" He sat there, dazed and disheveled, with the book on his head, thinking I thought I was going to be reincarnated again for a second. In the hallway, the sound of heavy footsteps walked slowly. It was Riza. She was thinking about the family head's message for the young master Vincent that he must complete the transfer ritual. "In 1 month. She worried you don't have much time, young master. You must hurry." Swinging the door to the room wide open, Riza called out loudly, "Young master, are you here?" The scene before her left her utterly astonished, frozen for 5 seconds. Inside the messy room, Vincent was having his wounds tended to by the maid, and Ravan was also sitting there with a bandage on his head. Riza couldn't help but wonder, asking, "What is this?" She seemed quite angry, asking, "Young master, would you care to explain this?" Seeing the appearance of the Level 7 Starlight Grand Attendant Riza, Ravan trembled uncontrollably. Vincent spoke up, "Don't worry, Grand Attendant. I was just meditating for a bit." The honest maid interjected. "Don't lie," Siri said with a hint of anger. "I don't know anything about mana, but people don't end up like this after meditating. Are you trying to make me worry?" Vincent looked dumbfounded. "I'm sorry." The Grand Attendant realized the young master's attitude towards others was completely different from the past. Risa bowed her head. "I won't ask any more since you said not to worry. Whatever meditation this is, you must hurry. Because the family head has sent a message for you. You must complete the transfer ritual within 1 month." The young man sat there dumbfounded upon hearing the announcement. Julian said to Vincent, "As far as I know, Father has never set a time limit before." He smiled, "I see. That means he has high expectations." The Grand Attendant walked towards the door, turned back, and said, "I will personally act as your guardian until this day next month. You must do your best until then." Riza thought to herself, "Young master, you must defeat it." Ravan looked at him, troubled. Vincent needs at least 2 months to get the blessing of the pseudo-human king, but 1 month seems a bit short. Hearing that, he spoke up, "Only 1 month. I have to hurry." But he was interrupted by Siri. The maid held the young master's hand and said, "You can't overdo it anymore, okay?" He relented, turning to her with a smile and replying, "All right, I promise." But the act of holding hands made Vincent accidentally notice something different in Siri's body. It was mana. He realized the maid in front of him was not simple at all. Siri had a large amount of mana in her body. Siri urged, "Okay," young master Vincent replied awkwardly, "All right, I promise. Now you should go. I have a few things to discuss with Ravan." And so the 2 women left the room. The door slammed shut. Inside, Ravan said to Vincent, 1 month isn't enough. We have to find another way." Julian also asked worriedly, "What do we do now?" Without a word, Vincent raised his hand and channeled the mana flow within his body. He asked Ravan, "This is the kinetic plane of mana, isn't it?" Both Julian and Ravan were utterly astonished, their eyes wide as they shouted, "You've completed the mana flow." Vincent sat there and smiled. This time it worked. "I can now circulate mana at will. With this, I'll be able to accomplish what Father said." Julian exclaimed in admiration. It's true that a talented person is fast at everything. Even Ravan couldn't believe his speed. Vincent gave a confident smile. "We don't need to wait a month. Let's just exceed Father's expectations." 2 weeks later, in the forest near Vincent's mansion, he and Ravan were standing there discussing something. Julian was also flying around him. Vincent raised both hands. "Now I will manifest the traits." Revan nodded slightly in agreement, but his face looked tense. Julian was also completely focused, watching the situation intently. Vincent was a little worried it might explode like last time. "Can you step back, Ravan?" But he was very firm. "I must witness your success with my own eyes." Julian smiled. "This guy is so loyal, isn't he?" Vincent announced, "I'm starting now." He began to channel the mana flow in front of him. Before long, the mana flow was complete. 2 halves of a manosphere appeared circulating like an hourglass, and they formed various large and small circles as Vincent continued. Then Julian noticed a slightly strange feeling. A blurry figure with a bushy beard slowly appeared behind the 2 of them. It was the image of a Viking dwarf with a large hammer in his hand and a characteristic 2-horned helmet. A massive figure with brightly glowing eyes accompanied by rumbling sounds. Julian trembled slightly. "Are you the Dwarf King?" "Hello, is it just a spiritual body like me that can see him?" The Dwarf King began to raise the hammer in his hand with a whistling sound of wind. He held the hammer, preparing to bring it straight down on the spot where the 3 of them were standing. Julian hugged his head in fear, but Vincent remained quite calm. However, what descended was a square-shaped barrier that surrounded them and blurred the dwarf's figure. A golden aura made Vincent's hair fly up. He kept his eyes shut tight in deep concentration. Vincent slowly opened his eyes. A light from ahead shone on his face. The mana circles from before were now enveloped by one large circle. Like a protective embrace and safeguard, Ravan stood beside him, joyfully reciting the Dwarf King's blessing, the first characteristic of defense fortifying the body will become tougher. Ravan smiled more brightly than ever, thinking to himself he had really done it. It had not even taken 1 month, and he had already obtained the Dwarf King's blessing. The image of the Dwarf King in the forest was gradually fading. Julian also smiled and said to Vincent, "Let's go home." He joyfully looked at his hands along with the golden aura radiating around his body with this. "I can fight a third-rank swordsman. I have achieved the foundation to subdue the blood demon." He turned to, "Thank the golden goat, it is all thanks to you." He smiled and closed his eyes. "Thank me after you have killed the blood demon," Vincent added. "But I have to ask you for one more favor." This made Ravan a little curious, wondering what it was about. 2 days later, a red carriage was prepared for the journey. Vincent stood in front of the mansion with Hoyt Lean in his hand. He smiled and said loudly, "It's time to go to the blood demon's lair." He approached the carriage. "I apologize for the sudden request, Grand Chamberlain. I have decided to exceed my father's expectations," Ryusa thought to herself, not taking full advantage of the time limit set by the family head. "And leaving 2 weeks early, will he be all right?" She spoke up. "I have protected the participants of this succession rite 3 times the family head, your brothers, as well as others from the Adenka clan. No one has ever failed when undertaking the trial," Ryusa thought to herself. "Savannah's son cannot possibly be the first one to fail." Ryusa said to him, "Please do not be reckless with that absurd courage." Vincent, however, just gave a confident smile and said, "Do not worry, Grand Chamberlain, you are in for a surprise." The carriage rolled through the forest, heading to the place of the blood demon trial. Inside, Vincent and Ryola sat opposite each other. The atmosphere was a bit quiet, he said to Julian. "A guard for a mission like this is really useless." The boy replied, "The blood demon will leave some items behind. She is only here to observe you." Vincent wondered, "I really do not understand why I have to do this. Just to prove myself." Julian sighed. "A lot has changed in 500 years, Ryola suddenly spoke up, breaking the silence. "Have you learned anything about the blood demon, sir?" She added, "To subdue the blood demon, you need to have at least 3 mana stars or higher. Did you know that? From what I see, the young master has not even reached the 3-star level yet." Julian suddenly remembered Vincent had never even asked about the blood demon. He replied to Ryola. "Do not worry," he thought. Could Aslan have arranged all this? "The blood demon will be the first monster I subdue." Vincent added to the Grand Chamberlain, "It is not a monster I need to know about." Ryola was a little worried. "Even with your swordsmanship, you should not let your guard down." She frowned slightly at him. "I do not think I am being funny." Vincent smiled and asked Grand Chamberlain, "Why are you trying so hard to help me?" Ryola replied, "Because I am both the guard and the supervisor for this trial." At this moment, Vincent mentioned the word corruption and looked straight at the woman before him, questioning, "Are you really planning to hide that?" It was clear that Ryola was once in financial straits. The carriage continued to roll steadily. Vincent said, "That is exactly why I cannot help but think about this." He added, "Perhaps you think I am too weak to do this intentionally, huh?" Hearing what her young master just said made Ryola think and left her at a loss for words. Vincent crossed his 2 arms over his chest and smiled. "If you do not want to talk, that is fine too. You did not ask about my training sessions, so let's consider it fair." The carriage stopped. The lead horse let out a loud neigh. Vincent asked, "Have we arrived?" Ryola turned to look outside and respectfully replied, "Yes." He then stepped out of the carriage and looked ahead. Julian stretched after the long journey. Vincent looked at the ruins before him and asked, "Is this the blood demon's lair?" Ryola replied, "There is no official name for this place, but people usually call it the ancient temple." Looking at this pile of rubble, who would believe it is a temple? She explained further, "This is a memorial to the first patriarch of Aslan after he defeated one of the remnants of the great demon." Davin Vincent mused. "Aslan again, huh? And the blood demon too, it cannot be a coincidence." Ryola gripped her sword and slowly drew it. She raised the blade to her chest as mana radiated out, forming a layer around her body. She was ready. After speaking, she pointed her sword straight to the sky, creating a massive pillar of light that shot upwards, accompanied by rumbling sounds as a barrier membrane slowly materialized. The entire trial area where the 3 of them stood was now completely enveloped by a spherical barrier. Julian recognized it as a mana barrier. Vincent smiled. "This is a barrier of a level that only allows exactly 1 monster to pass through." Behind a boulder, a figure with deadly red eyes and a tattered hood was silently watching them. Before Vincent now stood the blood demon. A large monster with a huge scythe in its hand stepped out and let out a demonic cry. Vincent confidently gripped Hoyt Lean and said to Ryola Grand Chamberlain, "Open your eyes and watch." He turned slightly, smiled, and said, and report exactly what you see the way I prove myself to the Adenka clan." As soon as he finished speaking, the blood demon charged forward. It swung its scythe, preparing to slash at him. A layer of purple mana enveloped the blade, along with the blood demon's deadly gaze as it prepared to strike down. Julian reminded Vincent dodge, then counterattack, but he disagreed. "Keeping your distance is better if you are facing an opponent with a larger weapon." "But for us it is different," he thought as he pushed off the ground to dash forward. "It is better to get close," he thought, holding Hoyt lean in his hand. He closed in on the blood demon, which slightly surprised it. It did not think he would dare to charge in this close. Instead of following through with the slash, it now had to pull its scythe back to block Vincent's thrust. Vincent's eyes glowed red as he smiled. "Do not think I will allow you to swing that scythe." Unleashing a continuous barrage of slashes, Vincent pushed back the blood demon, forcing it onto the defensive. Riola thought to herself, close combat is very advantageous against a large, heavy weapon. That is a given, she observed from the sidelines, but for his first real battle at 54 years old, how many people could actually execute that so perfectly? Looking at Vincent's demeanor and smile, Riola thought he looks as if he has defeated the blood demon many times before. He continued to attack relentlessly with Huyet Lien. "The Dwarf King's attribute is truly incredible. I can even move like this with this body." A lightning slash descended, but after all, this is the foundation for finding the technique in my swordsmanship. He retracted his sword and kicked the blood demon's scythe. It was a little surprise. The previous move helped him leap high into the air and fall back. Vincent landed gently and slid a short distance backward. He was now quite far from the blood demon, so this is the perfect moment to create distance. The blood demon now looked very excited. However, it had become quite tense after defending so many times. Its next attack will surely have a wide arc, which will create an opening for Vincent to close in. The blood demon charged forward, one hand swinging its scythe and the other reaching forward. Vincent also quickly took a stance with Huyet Lien and channeled his mana for an attack. He thought to himself, facing an enemy with so many openings, it will naturally be very easy to achieve victory. A stream of mana swirled around Huyet Lien. Vincent was extremely determined. "I must make maximum use of my attribute combined with my sword skills right now." With sharp eyes and intense concentration, a combination of sword skills and physical enhancement, Vincent unleashed a full-power slash towards the blood demon. It made its face contort and dropped the scythe. He appeared between the two halves of the blood demon, split in two. By a single slash, his eyes were sharp and full of power. The entire body of the blood demon was being absorbed into a red orb. After absorbing everything, the blood pearl fell with a thud to the ground in front of Vincent and Riola. He turned around and laughed loudly. "Did you see that, Grand Chamberlain?" But she did not react at all, just standing still and observing as if everything was just beginning. Riola was worried. Does he really not know the reason why the blood demon cannot be defeated with a single killing blow from within? The blood pearl streams of red energy began to pour out. Extremely quickly, the blood energy gathered into a single eye that appeared. It turns out the blood demon has 2 lives, and it was preparing to slash Vincent from behind the scythe already close to his neck. But his expression remained quite calm, and he was even smiling. Riola worriedly raised her sword and shouted. Young Master Vincent also quickly noticed something was wrong, glancing over and almost instantly ducking to dodge the blood demon's killing blow. Vincent was still smiling at it. Even this is the same as 500 years ago, but almost instantly the scythe chopped down vertically, aiming straight for his head and chest. This startled him a bit, but thankfully with his agile movements, Vincent managed to leap aside. Just in the nick of time, he was quite surprised by the blood demon's current speed. It seemed that after its second rebirth, it had become much more agile. Vincent looked closer and noticed that its appearance had also changed. Have these bastards evolved over the past 500 years? Raisa frowned. A blood demon going berserk after reviving its speed and strength had increased along with its massive body, and it used its powerful clawed hands. It swiped at Vincent, but as usual, he leaped away to dodge the attack. Debris flew up, accompanied by flashes of crimson lightning. As Vincent landed, he began to realize the danger before him. He had been pushed back against the rear wall. His escape route now blocked. The blood demon roared and charged, striking down hard towards him. Vincent was cornered. The situation was extremely dangerous, and he grimaced. Luckily, he hadn't been hit yet, but Julian noticed something and kept calling his name. The boy shouted the temple. Vincent looked over and saw through the large crack left by the blood demon's previous slash that gusts of wind were being sucked in. Julian grew worried. This is bad. We have to change the plan, but Vincent stopped him. Not yet. We need to make it lower its guard first. Looking at the blood demon before him, Vincent told Julian it's thinking the same thing. It's trying to corner us to land a decisive blow, and when it's completely ready, we'll execute our plan. The blood demon growled, giving him a deathly stare. It looked at him and prepared to strike. Riola, standing outside the battle, was silently observing every detail. She clenched her fists, thinking, I am the supervisor of the transfer ritual. If I interfere, it means the young master has failed. She was a little worried, please don't make me end the future of her lady's son, Saravana. She remembered a time before when a girl with long blue hair and somewhat shabby clothes reached out her hand and said with a smile, Staying here is a waste of your potential. The person kneeling was none other than Riola, the blue-haired girl added. We are on a path of adventure. To become martial artists, do you want to join us? In the past, Riola came from a declining noble family and survived by stealing at the nation's border. She recalled having to face such a terrifying monster. It shocked me greatly, but she invited me to join her. I even thought she was a crazy woman. The blue-haired girl smiled brightly. Oh, right. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Saravana. It's a pleasure to meet you. So this was Vincent's mother in her youth. She turned to ask Khan and Vexa behind her. You two agree as well, right? Those two were the current family head, and his stepmother Khan, with his familiar Huyat said he didn't care much, while Vexa laughed. You're so spontaneous. Even if I disagreed, you would have done it anyway. Wouldn't you? At that moment, Riola thought perhaps I had lost my mind after a head injury in battle, or maybe I was just tired of that life of plunder. Or perhaps I was swayed by her boldness. Riola reached out and firmly grasped Saravana's hand. In the end, I joined them on their path of adventure. To become legends of Adenka in the forest, a pair of large, grotesque bare feet approached a giant orc with a massive weapon in its hand prepared to attack. Riola stood with her sword. She smiled confidently, raised her blade, and apologized to it, but a familiar figure with long blue hair dashed in because Riola wasn't the star of the show, Saravana was. She leaped into the air behind the orc and prepared to deliver a killing blow with a flash. Saravana landed radiantly and looked at her, saying, Riola, you're the best. The orc could not escape death. A single sharp slash sent its head flying. In Riola's memory, Saravana was an incredibly strong and beautiful woman. She had the power to make others smile with the carefree innocence and positive energy she radiated at that point in Riola's hopeless life. She was a ray of light. Riola gradually became more positive, but to her, Lady Saravana was the most wonderful person of all. That night outside the mansion, it was pouring rain. Inside, Saravana lay with her eyes closed as a white cloth was drawn over her face. Khan bowed his head in sorrow, and the servants mourned while Riola held the newborn young master in her arms. The baby cried loudly. Saravana's last bloodline was now in Riola's hands. She looked sorrowfully at the child who had inherited his mother's blue hair. The little one was none other than Vincent. The son of the amazing Saravana. Tears streamed down her face, but she told herself this was not the time for sorrow. This was the child Lady Saravana had left behind. I will protect this child from the hardships of being a direct descendant of Adenka until he becomes an admirable martial artist. Time passed, and Vincent grew older. Noises echoed in the mansion's hallway. Vincent's younger sister had just slapped him and now stood laughing at him. Don't pretend we're friends, you loser, brother. He could only lie there holding his face. The girl added, You're so useless. Why don't you try speaking to me politely for a change? At that moment, Vincent could only endure it, bowing his head in response. Yes, little sister Riola stood behind, witnessing it all without intervening. The sister just laughed loudly. You actually did it just because I told you to. She bowed her head. For 14 years, I have wondered countless times. What can I possibly expect from this loser Vincent, and whether I should leave Adenka? Back then, Wilson was standing outside the door, happily praising how cool the young master was when Riola approached, radiating killing intent. That's a creatively stupid thing to do. Wilson, she said, making him cringe in fear. He trembled, trying to explain. That's not it, head attendant. I was just as a servant. Young Master Vincent has been acknowledged by the family head. This surprised Riola a bit. She began to change her opinion of her young master, and now finally she was starting to see a glimmer of hope. Riola thought to herself, Don't give up, young Master Vincent. Meanwhile, the blood demon continued its attack, swinging its powerful arm and mana scythe straight at him. A powerful downward strike came with a loud roar from the demon, but Vincent remained rooted to the spot. He showed no sign of reacting. Riola grew worried, hoping her young master wouldn't be stopped here. The time has come. Vincent finally gave the order. Now Revan's shadow flashed past the head attendant at an incredible speed that took her by surprise. But Riola didn't recognize him. She wondered who had just run past when suddenly a loud crash echoed. The sound of two hard objects colliding created a flash of light. It was blinding, accompanied by crackling electricity. Revan stood there using his great sword to block the blood demon's powerful attack. Only then did Riola finally realize. The person who had just run past her was Revan Adenka. Ravan had intercepted the blood demon's dangerous attack for Vincent just in time. Its face was filled with rage, surrounded by lightning and the sound of howling wind. Ryola was extremely surprised to see Ravan helping the young master against the blood demon. He smiled trustingly. "I'm counting on you, Ravan," while the other grinned back. "Finish it off before I collapse." "All right." Vincent extended his hands and began to meditate, concentrating intensely on the flow of mana within his body. Seeing this, Ryola panicked. "Oh my God, has he gone mad? Why is he meditating at a time like this?" Looking at Vincent right now. "If Ravan gets pushed back and the young master takes even a single small hit, he'll die." The blood demon before them was still radiating immense power, aiming for the one who had taken one of its lives before. But Revan intercepted it, saying, "Where do you think you're looking?" "I'm the one you're fighting!" He gripped his greatsword tightly, struggling to hold on. Ravan flung the blood demon's scythe backward, causing its expression to falter, but it immediately roared and switched targets. This time it aimed directly at Ravan and struck down. Perhaps thinking it would finish him off before getting to Vincent, he smiled. "If you don't fall to Vincent's hand, then you're my prey." With that, he activated Steelman, making his body incredibly tough. However, the blood demon was just as fierce, striking down with a blow that sounded like a massive explosion. Though he was sweating slightly, Ravan used a taunting tone. "Weaker than I thought." "Huh, is this all you've got?" Before he finished speaking, the blood demon unleashed a combo of slashes. Ravan started to worry because his sword didn't receive the Steelman effect, so it wasn't strong enough and was showing signs of cracking. Watching the blood demon swing before him, Ravan realized it was aiming for his sword. This next downward strike shattered the great sword to pieces. Ravan grimaced and swore, "Damn it." The massive silhouette of the blood demon, its scythe ready to strike down Ravan, thought without a sword. How can I protect Vincent? So he used both his hands. He grabbed the blade to block the attack, but there's a limit to human strength. His entire body trembled as he struggled to hold on. Even with the Steelman effect on his body, this was incredibly difficult. Feeling like he couldn't hold on any longer, Ravan yelled out, "Vincent." A familiar voice replied to him, "You did well, Ravan," and with it a jagged stream of mana appeared. A line of aura shot out from right under Ravan's arm, heading straight for the blood demon. It was the sword aura of Huyet Lin, a slash from Vincent's own sword skill. It split the blood demon into two pieces, and the blood core appeared once more, but this time it seemed unable to revive. Cracks appeared on the blood core with snapping sounds. Its color gradually faded, and fragments fell off with a pop. The core shattered before Vincent and Ravan. The blood demon was defeated. He stood nearby, laughing heartily. "Thanks, Ravan." He laughed out loud. "My God, I suddenly feel so sorry for the blood demon." Ryola's voice from a distance caught his attention. "Was that your plan, young master?" She walked over and said, "Congratulations, but I'm not sure the family head will be okay with you receiving help. Didn't you say you wanted to surpass your father's expectations?" Vincent bowed his head and smiled. "You're too hasty. You created this white mana screen to only let one monster pass through at a time." Just then, a faint red glow appeared on the screen. A large arm emerged, and since the first one was dead, this must be the next blood demon. It will break through the barrier and enter. It will continue to target Vincent. Holding the divine stone in his hand, he raised it and said, "Now I will prove myself." Then Vincent brought the stone to his mouth, bit down, and swallowed it. His entire body erupted with an immense surge of mana enveloping him in a dark purple color. The second blood demon charged forward, and Vincent thought to himself, "Even with my body powered up, I can only use the swordsmanship skill 2 times. The reason I had to meditate was to calculate the effects of the divine stone. He remained still on the ground facing its attack as he was calculating his body's endurance, and he raised his sword in front of him, preparing to finish the job. He once again used the swordsmanship skill, unleashing a blast of mana sword energy from below that pierced straight through the blood demon. Vincent realized the blood demon's weak point was exposed while it was healing its wound. The blood core appeared and was emitting streams of blood energy to revive it. The blood demon was gradually regenerating. With that familiar, hideous face and an opponent with so many openings, I can execute my swordsmanship much more easily while the blood demon has not yet fully formed. It immediately took a slash across the mouth. The second swordsmanship skill, a sharp slash, split the blood core in two instantly, and the blood demon perished. Ryola witnessed the entire process that had just unfolded. In just a short time, the blood core was cut in half, leaving her astonished. She closed her eyes in contemplation. It seems I have nothing to worry about after all. Looking at the boy before her, she felt proud. "Excellent, young Master Vincent, but you don't look too well." Using a technique that was beyond his limits caused Vincent to cough up blood. Julian worriedly asked, "What kind of swordsmanship is this? For my body to be in this state after using it just a few times." Vincent leaned on his sword and replied with difficulty, the meditation attribute and the divine stone, without one of those it would be impossible. Julian advised him to lie down. You're exhausted. If you pass out, Ryola will take care of you. Vincent replied, it's like the true sword tournament. Julian, the real winner is the one who can stand until the very end. He tried to stand firm despite his exhaustion. I will never fall. Ryola approached him from behind at that moment, smiling and calling out, young master. The surrounding barrier slowly vanished. It seemed the trial had been passed, but that wasn't the case. A large circle appeared above the barrier, causing it to crumble. Ravan, who was sitting there, looked up in utter alarm. Julian was also astonished, wondering what on earth was happening. Ryola held her sword at the ready, her face tense. This is a summoning circle, but it has never appeared in the rite of passage before. The surrounding rocks began to gather around a purple stone in the center. A brightly glowing eye appeared, staring intently at them. Ryola's face was serious, ready for a fight. Before everyone's eyes was an ancient guardian, a massive stone serpent that roared at them. Ryola reasoned that for a guardian this large to remain undiscovered until now means it's highly likely that it was created along with the temple. She pointed her sword at it. I am clearly a subordinate of the Adenka clan. Ryola Beladian, state your mission to the main line of the Adenka clan, and show some respect. The serpent ignored her words, opened its mouth, and charged to attack them. Ryola worried it's useless. It's no longer sentient because it's too old. She shouted, Young Master Ravan, please take Young Master Vincent and retreat. Ravan quickly helped Vincent up to leave. Meanwhile, Julian was also extremely worried as the two young masters turned to leave. Leaving the grand attendant with the giant stone serpent before her, Ryola began to use her sword. Beladian swordsmanship 7th form. A terrifying slash erupted behind the two young masters. It was an incredibly tall pillar of light and immense destruction, sending earth and rock flying everywhere. Ravan and Julian heard the commotion and turned back in astonishment. He called out loudly, Grand Attendant. At that moment, they only saw the stone serpent's head slam into the ground and couldn't see. Ryola anywhere. The ground trembled slightly. The serpent guardian's jaw was frozen, solid ice spreading from its mouth, and in an instant its entire body was frozen over, coiled like a slide. Cracks appeared from within the newly created wall of ice. With an extremely powerful slash surrounded by a circle of snowflakes, Ryola burst out from inside the serpent. Ravan was incredibly amazed and full of admiration for what he had just witnessed. Looking at the Grand Attendant, Ravan exclaimed, This is the level of a 7th-rank starlight, while everyone was still taking it all in. Vincent used his last bit of strength to whisper hoarsely, It's not over yet. He looked towards where Ryola was standing and said, Over there. Then, using what little strength he had left, he unleashed a slash aimed directly behind Ryola. The attack grazed just over her head and struck the rock behind her. Everyone was puzzled and confused by his action, and the Grand Attendant was no exception, slashing at empty air. But why? Was he trying to tell me something at that moment? Ryola finally looked carefully and noticed something. It was a guardian, and it seemed that was its true form, the shape of a bee with an eye-catching red stone for an abdomen. Ryola was surprised. When did it get out? The young masters are in danger. The guardian was flying towards Ravan at high speed, buzzing as it went, looking extremely dangerous. Immediately, the Grand Attendant knelt and used the attribute Blessing of the Wandering Galaxy. Ryola's speed seemed to increase as she dashed towards the two young masters with her ultimate skill, Snow Step. In the blink of an eye, her figure was already there. Facing the small guardian, she executed a sword strike that slid past Ravan, cutting the guardian in two and neutralizing the danger in the nick of time. Both of them then collapsed to the ground. Ryola stood beside them and asked, Are you two all right? The Grand Attendant was a little surprised. I couldn't see the guardian's true form, but the young master saw it and warned me. Vincent, who was leaning on his hands from exhaustion, said to Ryola, Look ahead. A small wooden box had appeared right where the serpent crumbled. Vincent thought that must be what the guardian was protecting. The danger had passed and the test was over. The forest grew quiet. Ryola slowly opened the box and looked inside. Vincent, sitting some distance away, asked what's in it. Holding up something that looked like a fang, she answered, This is a dragon bone. It seems to be an artifact left behind by the first family head Aslan. Julian looked quite pleased. A dragon bone is an extremely rare magical ingredient and a priceless treasure. Vincent smiled. It seems this is the reason Aslan created the rite of passage. Ryola knelt down and respectfully presented the dragon bone. Young master, please accept it. She bowed her head and added among all the Adenkas who have come here. You are the one who found it, so it belongs entirely to you. Vincent hesitated, sitting silently without reacting. Riola added that is my affair, meaning it is her responsibility to the clan if she were to be reprimanded. At that moment, he stood up, drew his blood lotus sword, and said, "Then let's do this." With those words, he slashed the dragon bone into 2 pieces. Holding one piece in his hand, he smiled and said, "Now we'll be accomplices." Vincent held out a piece of the dragon bone to Riola. "We wouldn't have been able to get this without you, so please take it." She smiled and bowed her head. "Thank you, my lord." Elsewhere, in a place with swords stuck in the ground, surrounded by barren, leafless trees, this was the burial ground for the generations of Adenka family heads. It was called the Sword Tomb. Family head Khan stood there gazing at the swords of his ancestors. Riola was bowing her head and reporting, "My lord, I have returned after young Master Vincent completed the rite of passage." He wondered, shouldn't this be reported to the church? Riola replied, "What I saw was far more astonishing, so I came to find you." His face grew serious. "I am very much looking forward to hearing it." The grand attendant began her tale. "Do you remember the hostile Ravan Adenka? He was influenced by the young master, and even risked his life to block the blood demon's attack. Furthermore, young Master Vincent successfully subdued it." The family head closed his eyes, seemingly disappointed. "So, doesn't that mean the boy couldn't do it alone and had to resort to trickery? But afterwards, he defeated the blood demon all by himself." Riola's words seemed to startle Khan. The grand attendant added, "And he also found the dragon bone, left behind by the first family head Aslan. This is the half that the young master shared with me." The family head asked, "Shared it how?" Vincent did it himself. Riola answered truthfully, "Yes, the young master cut it himself with his sword." The family head ordered, "There's one more thing." Riola was slightly flustered. He ordered her to shatter that piece of dragon bone. "It is an order from the family head, shatter it now." It made her a bit worried and confused, but she still obeyed. Riola struck the dragon bone with all her might. Both the family head and the grand attendant watched intently for any change in the dragon bone. Riosa raised her sword and bowed her head. "Ancestors of Adenka, please forgive this discourtesy." With that said, she used all her strength to strike down with the waning east wind technique, completely freezing the dragon bone, but when the outer layer of ice shattered, the dragon bone inside was almost completely unscathed. She was extremely surprised. "How can this be? I used all my strength." The family head turned and said, "You'd have to be a high-level blacksmith to shatter the dragon bone." Khan's eyes sharpened as he silently called out to his father in his mind, looking at the grave below and thinking, "It seems it's almost my turn." He ordered Riola, "It seems Vincent has a special power, take care of him." "My son," he said, then put his hands in his pockets and stood proudly before his father's grave. It started with Wilson crying, 2 streams of tears flowing as he called for the young master. Seeing this, Siri turned and complained, "Wilson, the young master needs to rest after that battle." "Quiet down now." He ran over and asked, "Young master, do I really have to go to the Blood City?" Siri poured more tea for her young master and said, "Of course." "Surely you're not going to let him go alone," Wilson said worriedly, "but Siri, the Blood City is filled with terrifying monsters and martial artists." The maid shrugged. "So the great adventurer Wilson is afraid of monsters, huh?" Vincent, looking a bit fed up watching his 2 servants bicker, turned to Julian and said, "Haven't you seen it?" It turned out he was focused on Siri. The flow of mana from her was quite clear, but Julian was very surprised by this. "Mana, I can't feel it. Even though I've lived with Siri for much longer than you, if it's true, I should have known." Vincent asserted, "I've seen a similar mana flow from 500 years ago." He turned and asked the maid, "Siri, what is your surname?" Hearing the young master's question, she was a bit flustered. "I come from the 7th-generation Heisley family, sir." This firmly confirmed Vincent's suspicion. "I knew it. Siri possesses a magical body." Julian was astonished. Heisley and a magical body. This is the first time I've ever heard of it. Vincent explained the Heisley family researches the body and mana. Furthermore, they were among those who discovered the Holy Bone. People from the Heisley family have a trait called a magical body. Similar to the Holy Bone, it allows them to absorb and skillfully use mana, Julian wondered. "So that means..." Vincent nodded. "If a body is full of mana, it can stop the Holy Bone from deteriorating." He stood up and asked Siri, "Do you know anything about the Heisley family? For example, your ancestors?" The girl looked a little sad. Wilson seemed unhappy. "Young master, do you know why Siri is here?" The maid recounted sadly, "My grandmother passed away a long time ago. She was the only Heisley I knew." Vincent sat down and clicked his tongue. "I'm sorry, Siri." She waved her hand and said, "It's all right. You've been through much more, from the True Sword Conference to the succession ceremony." Julian pondered, why would a family with such skills be wiped out? Vincent speculated perhaps something similar to what happened to the Samiel family occurred. Julian agreed it makes sense if they were trying to hide the existence of the Holy Bone. Vincent believed the Heisley family was killed to silence them. Siri then remembered something. Wait, there was someone else. She passed away recently. But the young master's mother, Lady Saravana, was also a Heisley. Hearing this, Julian was a little startled. The boy asserted, I've never heard of this before. Vincent repeated the same thing. Siri added, perhaps it's because no one is allowed to mention Lady Saravana, because the family head always feels sad when he hears someone mention her name. The scene shifts to the family head's mansion in a room where Khan Adenka stood pensively. His gaze was distant, and it was unclear what he was thinking at that moment. Back in Vincent's room, Siri continued, the lady hired everyone without any discrimination, even those from fallen families. Wilson added, we are all here thanks to Lady Saravana. Especially the Grand Chamberlain. She was at the bottom of society until the lady personally brought her to the Adenka family. Julian smiled. Mother was truly a wonderful person. Vincent frowned. That's right, it also means that Raiola takes care of us because of Mother. There was a knock on the door. The Grand Chamberlain stood outside and asked, Young Master, are you there? She came to announce that young Master Ravan was leaving. He was standing there with a greatsword on his back, arms crossed, looking towards the mansion. Vincent arrived and asked, You're leaving? Ravan nodded. I've already defeated the blood demon, and I can't stay here forever. Vincent spoke up. I still have one more thing I need your help with. Ravan said cheerfully, Sure, go ahead. He said, I want you to find out more about the history of the Heisley family from 500 years ago. It seems someone wanted to cover this up. He smiled, things like that essential oil and watermill story, huh? Vincent nodded, something like that. Ravan replied, All right, leave it to me. Then the two of them shook hands. Vincent smiled and said, See you again, Ravan. He also replied cheerfully, I'll become even stronger. I don't want to embarrass you. And with that, he left, not forgetting to turn back and wave goodbye to everyone. Vincent said to Raiola, the Grand Chamberlain, I've been told about my mother. It seems your kindness towards me is to repay a debt of gratitude. She nodded and replied yes. He turned to face her and said, I have a favor to ask you as Vincent Adenka, not as the son of Saravana Adenka. This made Raiola wonder, what is it? His face was extremely serious now. Train me until I go to the Blood City. Vincent added, I'm not asking you this because I'm my mother's son, but as a martial artist. The Grand Chamberlain wondered, Lady Saravana, can my loyalty to you be transferred to young Master Vincent from now on? Recalling the lady's radiant face, I will never be able to hear your answer. Forgive me for this moment of weakness. She gave a smile, her eyes sharp. I will not go easy on you. Vincent was just as happy. He wanted that more than anything. I'm counting on you, Raiola. The next day at Vincent's mansion, it was a beautiful day. The two of them stood facing each other in the training yard. Raiola began, you can learn attributes without a catalyst, but that requires you to have a mana attribute circle. Understood? Vincent nodded, understood. She took a sword from the weapon rack and continued, all right. But since you asked me as a martial artist, I won't simply tell you everything. Vincent looked at the sword and wondered, aren't you going to use the sword from the succession ceremony? Raiola closed her eyes. You will meet it when the time comes. She began to use mana. You have a full 5 months until you go to the Blood City, and if you can injure me even once, I will show you that attribute. Her eyes lit up and she smiled. Try and strike me with that peculiar swordsmanship of yours. Suddenly, Vincent became worried. Hold on now, didn't you see Ravan? A permanent wound would be a total disaster. Before he could finish his sentence, Raiola had closed the distance, her sword tip right in front of Vincent's face. Do I look like young Master Ravan? The sword tip was just an inch from his eye, this attribute. Vincent drew his sword and slashed at Raiola, but she simply leaped up to dodge it. Raiola said, I know the power of that slash quite well. That's why I'm planning not to give you the chance to use it. Vincent worried, did she just aim straight for my eye? That's too dangerous. Raiola landed lightly. I heard that you are friends with the 4 priests of Danben. We will ask for their help when needed. Vincent began to feel the Grand Chamberlain's ruthlessness. She smiled, I told you. I wouldn't go easy on you. A week later, on a cool, clear, moonlit night, those same 2 people were on the training ground, still clashing with no sign of rest. Vincent's determination was clear on his face, though he was struggling. Meanwhile, Raiola, with her effortless superiority, instantly appeared behind him. You've been preparing for a long time and crash. The entire training ground seemed to shatter from Raiola's incredibly destructive blow. She said 2 more attack techniques and you'll be overwhelmed. Let's stop here then. Vincent lay there managing to retort that was too rough. She sheathed her sword. You'll get better soon. I'll call for Siri and Wilson. Looking at the chipped sword in her hand, Raiola thought this sword is about to break again. I wonder how many swords I've had to replace these past few days. I'll have to talk to the blacksmith about this. Over at the forge, a short but muscular man was swinging a large hammer forging iron. Raiola stood at the door and complained. "It seems your master's touch is something you've lost since we last met." She added it would be a tragedy if you forged nothing but trashy swords like this for the Adenka family. Upon hearing this, Hansen, it seems the blacksmith's pride was wounded. He took off his glasses and glanced toward the door. "What brings you here to trouble me in the middle of the night like this?" Raiola presented a bag of items, saying, "Take a look at this." She poured out a pile of broken and chipped blades. The Grand Sentinel said, "These are the blades I've used this past week, and I only use them for dueling. I can't have you providing me with such fragile blades." Hansen observed them meticulously and noticed something a bit strange, asking, "Did you fight a monster with sharp fangs?" The old blacksmith suggested a series of scenarios. What about a 9-star martial artist or higher? Or a mage with more than 7 magic circles? But none of them were right. Raiola shook her head. "Do you think I have a death wish your blades have clashed with a greatsword, then?" The Grand Sentinel's answer was still the same. "No, that's not possible." She added, "I don't know if you would consider it a greatsword. But I dueled with that blood lotus of young Master Vincent." Hearing his name, the blacksmith Hansen was astonished. What Vincent, that ugly 7th young master? Why would he have the blood lotus? And so a while later, a meeting took place in front of the mansion Raiola had brought the blacksmith. Vincent came out wondering, "What's the matter at this hour, Grand Sentinel?" She said respectfully, "I apologize for calling you out so late." He insisted on waiting to see the blood lotus. Hansen, who had changed into a fine outfit, said with his arms crossed, "What reason is there for me not to see it? I'm the one who created it." Vincent was surprised. "You're the one who created the blood lotus." Julian was wide awake as well. "This dwarf is the blacksmith Hansen." He maintained a confident smile and said, "I am a dwarf after all. If I wanted to, I could even summon Khan himself." Julian told Vincent he is a famous blacksmith, a longtime friend of your father, and a former master associated with the Adenka clan. He wondered, "Former, you mean he's no longer a master?" Decades ago, he stopped creating great swords and focused on high-quality innovations. He was looked down upon by the forges for his love of money, and as a result lost his honor and position within Adenka. Vincent smiled. "That's wonderful." This made Julian wonder why. So many people were able to protect themselves thanks to this man. He prioritized others over his own honor. He placed a hand on his chest and bowed respectfully. "I am Vincent, the 7th young master of Adenka. It is a great honor to meet you, Master Hansen." He looked at him and smirked slightly. "Master, huh?" Then Hansen laughed loudly. "Look at this kid. He really knows how to be a comedian." "All right, I apologize for coming so late, young master. Are you satisfied now?" Vincent maintained the same attitude. "I am not mocking you. You have chosen the correct path." Vincent's words made Hansen grow somber. His smile faded, and it was time to remember the past. When he was younger and his beard wasn't as long as it is now, someone had said the same thing to him. "The path you've chosen is the right one." Hansen, that person was none other than the clan head Khan Adenka. When the two of them were sitting in a tavern, Khan had said, "Your wish will be ridiculed by many." He raised his mug of beer, smiled at Hansen, and continued, "However, I believe your decision is correct." Back in the present, his gaze was fixed on the young man before him. He watched Vincent's current appearance with great focus. It made him see a faint shadow of Khan in him. "It seems the apple doesn't fall far from the tree," Hansen said. "I thought you were the ugly Vincent, but that must have been just a baseless rumor." He just smiled. "I'll take that as a compliment," he said to him. "Let me see the blood lotus. I have to check its condition." Vincent handed the sword to him without hesitation. He drew the sword and admired it for a long time. The blade was still sharp and shiny. Handing the sword back, Hansen asked, "You used this to defeat the blood demon and duel with the stalker Sarvana, right?" Vincent nodded, yes. His affirmation made even an experienced man like Hansen a little surprised, looking at Vincent's confident demeanor. He thought to himself, how was the blade not damaged at all? It's as if he didn't use the blade but cut with his own power. Hansen asked seriously, "What kind of swordsmanship do you use? I must see it." He frowned slightly at Vincent. "Why are you hesitating? Are you really going to carry the blood lotus around but then say, 'I'm too tired today to get out of this'?" Then Julian stopped him. "Vincent, you can't. You've already used both sets of swordsmanship today." "I know that. But it's not every day we get to meet a master. If I miss this chance." While he was lost in thought, Siri suddenly appeared behind him, calling out in a very dangerous tone, "Master Hansen," which startled him. The maid put her hands on her hips and said in a loud voice, "Why are you still causing a commotion when it's time for bed, huh?" Hansen recoiled and stammered, "No, Siri. I was just seeing this." Vincent asked Raiola, "Do those two know each other?" She replied, "Hansen donated to children living in poverty, and Siri was one of them. The two of them are basically like a father and daughter." Siri still hadn't stopped questioning and scolding Hansen. The maid turned and pouted, "Whatever, I'm going to be mad. How would I feel when you come and interfere with other people's business?" Hansen quickly backed down. "All right, I'll come tomorrow. Is that okay?" Vincent stepped forward, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said, "Tomorrow I will come to the forge with Siri." Hansen was overjoyed, really. So he went home, not forgetting to turn back and remind him, "You have to bring Siri along, promise me." Julian exclaimed, an old man and his daughter looking at the girl in front of him. Vincent thought, "I know where Siri's warm heart comes from now." The next morning at Hansen's forge, Vincent arrived as promised, and a flow of mana was surrounding him, and his sword he slashed, creating a purple shape like the number 10 straight ahead. Hansen and Siri were standing nearby, witnessing the power of this sword technique. He thought to himself, what a strange technique. It feels like the techniques of the valiant king and the great demon recorded in legends. Hansen smiled. "Not bad, I can see there was a reason they gave him the Blood Lotus." Vincent asked, "Is that enough for you to see?" Hansen winked. "That's enough. You've made me quite interested. Almost enough to make me want to forge a sword for you." Vincent was astonished. "A sword for me?" He scratched his head, "But there's one thing missing." Vincent quickly asked, "What is it?" Hansen sighed. "I've been planning to make a sword for a long time, but it requires a rare material for the blade and sheath." Vincent offered, "I will buy it for you." He looked at him. "No. It's something so precious that you couldn't buy it, no matter how much money you have. It's the Horn of Mattern. Isn't that referring to a dragon bone?" Both Vincent and Julian's eyes widened when they heard that. Then the two of them looked at each other. What a fortunate coincidence, as if it were all planned beforehand. Then he presented the piece of dragon bone, half of the horn, in front of Hansen. He asked, "Can you forge a sword with this?" Seeing the thing before him, the blacksmith couldn't believe his eyes. He exclaimed in astonishment, "Matterhorn's horn!" Vincent raised his hand to signal, "Shh, only Father and Riola know about this." Hansen looked at him. "Destiny must have arranged for us to meet." "All right, I will make a sword for you." Vincent held up the Blood Lotus and asked, "I wonder if you could add the horn to the Blood Lotus instead of making a completely new sword." Hansen asked in surprise why you should just commission a new sword. Holding out the sword in his hand, Vincent said, "This blade symbolizes the beginning of my father's career, and the Blood Lotus itself is already excellent. I am quite fond of it." Hansen took the sword and smiled. "You always choose the right words to say." "All right, come back in 3 weeks. I will add the horn to the Blood Lotus." 3 weeks later, Vincent and Siri returned to the forge. As promised, there was a fire flaring up. Siri asked in confusion, "Young master, what's wrong?" In front of them, the forge was on fire and the flames were raging. Vincent worried. The forge is really burning. The fire has almost completely engulfed it, and its heat is radiating brightly over the area. Siri looked at the fire worriedly. "What about Master Hansen?" Vincent reassured her. "Calm down, Siri," he thought to himself. Seeing Siri this shocked must mean that something even more serious has happened inside the forge. Vincent said decisively, "We must rescue Master Hansen." Julian wondered, "What are you doing?" "Don't tell me you're planning to rush into that fire." Watching the flames rise relentlessly, Vincent said to the boy, "My sword can cut through anything. I will slash through the door in the fire." And run in quickly. After saying that, he immediately channeled his mana flow, preparing to draw his sword. Julian worried, "You're being too reckless." With little time left, Vincent unleashed a powerful slash toward the smithy's door as a stream of mana zigzagged from the outside through the entrance. Vincent's figure followed right behind his familiar cross-shaped sword technique, clearing the path. He finally made it inside. Julian pointed to the right and said, "Over there." Master Hansen was slumped over there, motionless, enveloped in flames. He approached and called out loudly, "Master Hansen, please calm down." Julian beside him looked on sorrowfully. "We're too late. He's completely unconscious." While he was unsure of what to do, then something caught Julian's eye. The boy asked Vincent, "Look over there, is that the blood link?" In the middle of the room, the brilliantly glowing sword radiated immense energy. Julian sensed it. "I think mana is overflowing here." Vincent confirmed the dragon bone is definitely stronger than Hansen anticipated. But the more important thing now was to get Master Hansen out first. He hoisted the man onto his shoulder and started walking through the surrounding flames, but suddenly, he stopped when he sensed the obstacle ahead. Vincent grimaced. "What do we do? The exit is blocked. If we don't do anything, we'll be completely engulfed by the flames. What do we do now?" Julian floated around, urging himself to find a solution. The boy spoke up. "Oh, that's right. Do you know any defensive skills?" Looking at the blood link, Julian added, "I know it's a dragon bone, but it won't be able to maintain these flames for long." Vincent replied, "You mean we can just wait?" He added, "I have this. A sword technique used only for defense." Julian replied, "Perfect, use it to defend us." Vincent closed his eyes, thinking to himself, "Remember, I am Vincent Adenka, also known as Davin Samuel." Samuel Swordsmanship, Chapter 1. Vincent raised the sword to head level. He began to channel his mana. An image of Davin from the past appeared along with the technique Gentle Steel Breaker, which created a thin layer of mana around his body. His sword strokes created delicate lines that seemed to hold back the flames. The blade breaks steel, and the amount of mana depends on his resolve. Vincent wielded the sword slowly. From top to bottom, he'd felt the flow of the approaching flames. A single slash cut through the fire. This was the Tzu Chi sword style, a technique from the gentle steelbreaker. Julian watched this completely stunned. Good heavens, the boy recognized it as Samuel's swordsmanship and wondered about this guy. Just who are you? A moment later, the fire died down, leaving only plumes of black smoke. Vincent was drenched in sweat and exhausted from using so much mana. He sat there leaning on his sword beside the blacksmith. With Hansen lying beside them, Julian exclaimed, "Are we alive?" Hansen began to cough violently, likely from the smoke. He was finally awake. Vincent walked over, smiled, and asked Master Hansen, "Are you all right?" The man looked at him and wondered, "How can you use Samuel's swordsmanship?" Vincent gave a wry smile and said, "If you're saying confusing things like this, I guess you must be all right." He thought to himself, if the master recognized it, I guess I'm not that weak after all. Hansen stroked his beard. That's right, that couldn't have happened. I must have been dreaming. He added, "The sword is finished." The blood link was floating right above the forge, looking incredibly sharp. Hansen, still seated, added, "I've never forged a dragon bone before. How could I have known it would overflow? With mana and spew fire like that." Vincent slowly approached the sword. He carefully gripped the hilt with both hands. A golden aura enveloped him as Vincent drew the blade. It shone as brightly as the morning sun. He could feel the sword resonating with him. An insignia had appeared on the blade similar to the mana circle from when he was blessed by the Dwarf King. Hazen asked why you were counting people out like that. "Don't you like it?" Vincent smiled. "Not at all. This is a sword that's beyond amazing." Julian thought that something was strange. This made Vincent curious, so he asked, "What's wrong, Julian?" The boy answered, "If this is the sword inherited by Patriarch Aslan, then he should have known that the dragon bone would do this. If I were Aslan, I would have given some kind of warning. Or maybe there was some reason that he didn't say anything." During a training session for the next dragon bone battle, Vincent smiled and asked, "Hansen, can you forge me a new sword?" He replied, "You want a new sword already? You must not like this one." Vincent said gently, "Because you've already completed a good one. I'm sure that the next one will be even better." Still sitting, he replied, "It's going to take a lot of time. I still have to clean up this mess." Hansen wondered, "But I can't deal with another dragon bone, so what's the point? Do you think I'll survive the next dragon bone?" Vincent remained calm while Julian covered his mouth and snickered. Another piece of dragon bone appeared before Hansen, presented by none other than Riola. She presented it and said, "Since you needed a dragon bone, I brought this over." Just like last time, Hansen was utterly astonished. His expression was much the same as before, gaping with wide eyes as he exclaimed, "Another dragon bone." The grand attendant raised a finger to her lips, shushing him. "Only the master knows about this item." Hansen quickly covered his mouth with both hands. He glanced at Riola to forge another dragon bone sword. Saravana's subordinate must be a noble, I presume. She replied, "It's not for a subordinate. This sword is only for the young master." Holding the dragon bone, Hansen remarked, "You certainly know how to persuade people. All right, then. I don't know how long it will take, but I will forge the most perfect dragon bone sword I possibly can."